Good evening, everybody. Are you ready for the SPHEREx launch? SPHEREx is NASA's newest space telescope. It is supposed to launch in about an hour and a half, if they launch tonight. SpaceX just posted a couple minutes ago saying it's a go, saying things are looking good. All systems are looking good, SpaceX says. SPHEREx is launching on a SpaceX Falcon9 rocket. So, again, as of 3 minutes ago, SpaceX says all systems are looking good for tonight's launch. So we are going to bring you live coverage here. We're going to have the live stream from NASA coming up. And you know what I should do real quick? I'm not gonna worry about it yet. Actually, you know what I should do? Hang on a moment. Hang on a moment. Where is it here? Yeah, we should have live coverage from NASA starting at 10:15 Eastern time, I think. Yes. So in about a half an hour. So we'll talk about SPHEREx before then. Oops. I am just trying to make sure that we have the feed when it starts. Okay, thanks for your patience. Had to just send a message there. I'm trying to make sure we have the feed when it starts. Thanks for joining the stream. Let's talk about SPHEREx. Let's talk about SPHEREx. Look, it's SPHEREx. It's NASA's latest space telescope. Guys, SPHEREx. This launch is from California. I think there's another SpaceX launch tonight. That's after, and that's from, I think, Florida, and that's Starlink satellites. That's a separate launch. This is the first of the two. This is the NASA SPHEREx launch. So we're going to talk about this their new space telescope. I think they've had a couple of scrubbed launches, I think last night and then a few days ago. Okay. Is it going to be like Hubble? We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about how it's their newest one. I guess it seems like kind of complementary to other ones. It has some different capabilities. Thanks, by the way, to our moderators. And you can see here, SPHEREx. There's also a punch mission. I should know what that is. Punch is about the sun. We'll talk about that. You can see that last night, SPHEREx and Punch launched scrubs due to weather data flow issue. That is a picture from March 8th of what's going to be launching there, right there. That's at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. David N. says, was supposed to fly from Vandenberg this past Saturday. Also was supposed to fly last night. Let me thank our moderators real quick. Thanks to Beth Mythical and Ruth Krafasi, who are here moderating. I really appreciate it. And Linda Belglary, Misha over on X. Thanks also to our Twitch moderators who are here. Moment of Lovely, Matthew Kohai 3, McBritches, Surly, Devin, Tariag. Thank you. Also on Twitch, thanks to Notorious Rob for your support. Thank you. And Stunned in the North, thanks for subscribing on Twitch. And thanks to our Facebook moderators as well. We have K. Lowry Body is moderating. Thank you. Thanks for everybody joining us over there on Facebook. Thanks to Marie Minicello for subscribing. And Rita Evans-Lang for subscribing. And thanks so much for your support, Dennis Kennedy. All right, let's talk about this SPHEREx thing. They have a little some background here on the website, on NASA's site. They say it's NASA's latest space telescope, SPHEREx, will map the universe like none before it, providing a big picture view that will illuminate the origins of our universe, galaxies within it, and life's key ingredients in our own galaxy. They say SPHEREx stands for spectrophotometer for the history of the universe. They're studying how the universe, it's going to help study how the universe developed. Oh no, it's spectrophotometer for the history of the universe, epoch of reionization, and ICE's Explorer. That's a lot. SPHEREx will observe hundreds of millions of galaxies and other objects during its 2-year mission, mapping the cosmos in wavelengths invisible to the human eye. So it's about the big picture, they say. Space telescopes like NASA's Hubble and Webb telescopes have zoomed in on many corners of the universe to show us planets, stars, and galaxies in high resolution. But some questions can be answered only by looking at the big picture. Using 102 color filters to map the entire sky, it's going to do an all-sky map. What new discoveries could SPHEREx help unlock? Here are 8 key facts. They say it will help answer some of the biggest questions in astrophysics. It's going to make an all-sky map, helping to answer questions about why the large-scale structure of the universe looks the way it does, how galaxies form and evolve, and the origins and abundance of water and other key ingredients for life in our galaxy. So it complements other telescopes. It adds unique strengths to NASA's fleet of space telescopes, they say. The mission's ability to scan the entire sky, not just one part of it, the entire sky, quickly and gather data on billions of stars and galaxies complements the works of more targeted telescopes like Hubble and Webb. It's less targeted, more comprehensive than those. While the Hubble and the Webb can provide a more detailed look at a given target, survey telescopes like SPHEREx provide broader context and search for trends across entire categories of objects, including stars and galaxies. That's it right there. They say SPHEREx joins a line of NASA space telescopes that includes Hubble, Spitzer, WISE, Webb, and Roman. Can we get there's the picture. That's SPHEREx. Hubble, Spitzer, WISE, Webb, and Roman. And here is SPHEREx. Samurai Conscious, I'd have to look up the dimensions of all of them to know which is the biggest. It might not be perfectly drawn to scale. It will make the most colorful all-sky map ever. It's going to map the whole sky. It sees in the infrared range, which consists of wavelengths that the human eye can't detect. Hold on a second here. Let me just make sure I can hear myself. Let me make sure the sound is working here. So we don't have an issue a little later. Give me a moment here. You're going to hear 2 of me for a second. I think you'll hear 2 of me. Let's see. Let's see if this works. Will you hear 2 of me? I'm not hearing anything. Oh, I think, is it muted? Oh, let's try this. I'm hearing something. The feed when it starts. Okay, I know what's happening. I have to fix my headphones because my headphones are not working. We don't want that to happen. Let me just do a quick fix on this. Let's try this one more time. Will we hear? Will I hear through my head? Thanks for joining the stream. Let's talk about. We're good. We're good. We're back. All is well. We are talking about SPHEREx. This is NASA's latest space telescope. It is going to launch in about an hour and 20 minutes. In about 20 minutes, or 15, or actually in about 25 minutes, we should have the NASA live stream for you. And we're just giving you an introduction to SPHEREx. We mentioned, according to NASA, that it is not unlike the Webb and Hubble. It doesn't focus on a particular, it's not geared to focus on a particular part of the sky. It's all about the wide view. You can see it's going to make the most colorful all sky map ever. It sees in the infrared range, which consists of wavelengths the human eye can't detect, using a technique called spectroscopy, I think it is. The telescope splits light into 102 colors, individual wavelengths, like a prism creates a rainbow from sunlight. This enables it to detect evidence of chemical compounds and molecules. I think they're going to use it to try to detect water in different parts of the universe. Oh, and this is another thing I've read about it. They want to use it to help understand inflation, not financial inflation. This mission will shed light on a cosmic phenomenon called inflation that took place less than a second after the Big Bang. Less than 1 second after the Big Bang, the first billionth of a trillionth of a second, just crazy as that sounds, to be precise, space itself increased in size by a trillionfold. The SPHEREx mission will help scientists understand the physics that drove this nearly instantaneous event called inflation. Small differences in the distribution of matter were amplified by inflation, influencing the large-scale structure of the universe today. The SPHEREx observatory will measure the distribution of hundreds of millions of galaxies to help scientists understand what drove inflation and to help improve our understanding of the physics behind this extreme cosmic event. So it's going to help understand the origins of the universe in terms of its early development, they say. This is pretty quick. Let me just go through here some of the other stuff they say. It will measure the collective glow from galaxies near and far, including hidden galaxies that have not been individually observed. This will give scientists a more complete picture of all the objects and sources radiating the universe. Yeah, this is about water here. This is very interesting. The mission will search for the Milky Way galaxy for essential building blocks of life. Life as we know it wouldn't exist without basic ingredients such as water and carbon dioxide. The SPHEREx observatory is designed to find these molecules frozen in interstellar clouds where stars and planets form. The mission will help scientists discover the location and abundance of these icy compounds in our galaxy, giving them a better sense of how likely they are to be incorporated into newly forming planets. I'm almost done with this intro. I think it's just a nice thing to go through at the beginning. The observatory, there it is right there, SPHEREx, artist's depiction of it. The observatory stays cold thanks to its unique cone-shaped design. It needs to, the telescope and detectors need to operate around minus 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Otherwise, they will generate their own infrared glow that might overwhelm the faint light from the cosmic sources. Wow. Unless they're that cold, unless it's that cold, it might radiate a glow which overwhelms the light that it's trying to measure. It relies on an entirely passive cooling system. No electricity or coolants are used. Key components of this system include 3 cone-shaped photon shields to protect the telescope from the heat of Earth and the sun, as well as a mirrored structure beneath the shields to direct heat from the instrument out into space. And the all-sky map generated by SPHEREx will be freely available to scientists around the world. It will generate a new encyclopedia of information about hundreds of millions of celestial objects, including stars, galaxies, and even asteroids in our own solar system, most of which haven't been studied with spectroscopy before. Researchers will be able to access this mission's massive treasure trove of new cosmic data from anywhere in the globe. And here is this picture from NASA JPL of that SPHEREx, artist's depiction. There it is. So that gives you a bit of an idea of what it's about. It's going to take an all-sky, it's going to make an all-sky map. It's going to look for the building blocks of life, also in the Milky Way galaxy. Hopefully help answer some questions about the beginning of the universe after the Big Bang. And the launch is 1 hour and 15 minutes. And the launch is on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. By the way, there's one other part of this mission. There's this punch thing, which I think is on the same rocket. Punch is polarimeter to unify the corona and heliosphere. Punch mission will reveal how the sun's corona gives rise to the solar wind and space weather that surround our home planet. Punch is 4 small satellites in low Earth orbit that will make global 3D observations of the entire inner heliosphere to learn how the sun's corona becomes the solar wind. So I believe it's the same launch. The same launch is launching both the Punch and SPHEREx missions, if I have that right. Yeah, same launch. All right, I want to take some comments from you guys on this. Mona L says, how come NASA uses a SpaceX rocket? Well, so NASA has for a while now had these programs where they have hired private companies to do things. So I believe the rockets they use are from different companies they work with. As to why they specifically use this one for this mission, that I'm not sure. But let me see if I can get you a little more about that. I was trying to find you a description of how this all came about. Give me 1 second here. Maybe I can pull something up for you. Maybe from the NASA website. They might have something written there. Princess Kidda says it's the cheapest and most reliable. One moment, please. One moment, please. The Commercial Crew Program and the Commercial Resupply Services Program. Is this a Commercial Crew Program? NASA's Commercial Crew Program is delivering on its goal of safe, reliable, and cost-effective human transportation. That's human. How about the Commercial Resupply Program? Is that the one we're looking for? I was trying to get you an overview of NASA's ambitious commercial space program has enabled a successful partnership with 2 American companies to resupply the International Space Station. Is that SpaceX? Anyways. The partnership is changing the way NASA does business, helping build a strong American commercial space industry and freeing NASA to focus on developing the next generation rocket and spacecraft that will allow us to travel farther in space than ever before. So it's an interesting question of how of the whole thinking behind NASA working with private companies, which I don't have a prepared answer for. It's going to really quickly. Some reasons I've seen cited online are cost savings, stimulating the commercial space industry, redundancy and resilience. I know NASA likes to have redundancy. They like to have more than one provider. So if they have a problem with one provider, they can use the other provider's stuff. It's a whole good question. I don't want to get too into that now because I would have to research it, and you'd be watching me do research. I'm sure some of our viewers are familiar with that topic. Now, Johan Wiss says NASA doesn't have any rockets anymore. The shuttle is retired. The Artemis rocket is for the moon, maybe. Grendel Mort says SpaceX and ULA, United Launch Alliance, are the two main rocket launch companies that NASA uses. By the way, NASA just posted 1 minute ago that live coverage of the launch will begin on NASA at 10:15 in 14 minutes. We have 14 minutes until the NASA stream. 14 minutes. And we will be showing you that. Oh, speaking of which, let me just do one quick thing here. You can see here, there's a Reuters article, NASA SPHEREx space telescope to explore what happened right after the Big Bang. It's not, yeah, so the launch is in 1 hour and 7 minutes. Are they picking up the Lost in Space astronauts? No, they are not. That is not this mission. Hey, thanks so much to PZ Papa Zulu for the gift memberships. That's really nice of you. See, Reuters says NASA is preparing to launch a megaphone-shaped observatory on a mission to better understand what happened immediately after the Big Bang that initiated the universe and search the Milky Way for reservoirs of water, a crucial ingredient for life. The NASA's SPHEREx space telescope. Now, this is an article from a couple weeks ago, so it's supposed to launch in 1 hour and 7 minutes. It is looking to answer questions about the origin of the universe while mapping the distribution of galaxies. SPHEREx will also look within the Milky Way galaxy, our galaxy, for reservoirs of water frozen on the surface of interstellar dust grains in large clouds of gas and dust that give rise to stars and planets. It's a 2-year mission. It will collect data on more than 450 million galaxies, as well as more than 100 million stars in the Milky Way. As it explores the origins of the universe and the galaxies within it, it will create a 3-dimensional map of the universe in 102 colors, individual wavelengths of light. And as we mentioned before, the mission is intended to gain insight into a phenomenon called cosmic inflation, the rapid and exponential expansion of the universe from a single point in a fraction of a second after the Big Bang that occurred roughly 13.8 billion years ago. By way of comparison, Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. It's set to take pictures in every direction around Earth. Also, it will look for water and molecules and including carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide, frozen on the surface of dust grains and molecular clouds, which are dense regions of gas and dust in interstellar space. Scientists believe that reservoirs of ice bound to dust gathers in these clouds. Scientists believe that reservoirs of ice bound to dust grains in these clouds are where most of the universe's water forms and dwells. Also, they mention the Punch mission in this article. Reuters says, in addition on this launch, in addition, that hasn't started yet, SPHEREx being launched along with SPHEREx is a constellation of satellites for NASA's Punch mission to observe the sun's corona, the outermost layer of the sun's atmosphere. The aim is to better understand the solar wind, the continuous flow of charged particles from the sun. So those are the two things being launched. And we should have NASA coverage, hopefully in about 10 minutes. Let me actually download these pictures so you can see them. I have a couple of SPHEREx pictures. From Reuters. Here is one picture. That's SPHEREx. Check it out. Oh, thanks so much to Carlos Rosa. Appreciate that, Carlos. Thank you. It is. The launch is at Vandenberg Space Force. Is it Space Force Center? It's in Vandenberg. Space Force Base, Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. Then the other photo is this one. No, that's not. That's the one you just saw. There it is too, from Reuters. There's SPHEREx. Sean says that's one big sphere. Yeah, it's not exactly a sphere. Although, maybe there's part of it that's a sphere. I mean, these are round, but sphere is three-dimensional. Well, maybe these parts are like half spheres. I don't know. Austin Batman says cone action. About 8 minutes until NASA live stream is supposed to start. This is a SpaceX rocket, the Falcon 9 rocket, which it's going to launch on. Tyler Becker says proton shields. Captain Dave said that they provide a sample picture of what to expect. That's a good question. I have to go look and check what's on the site. Oh, by the way, this is interesting. There's SPHEREx mission page here. They say launch sequence, key events after launch. SpaceX's Falcon 9 is a 2-stage rocket that will launch SPHEREx in a south-southwest direction over the Pacific Ocean. Somebody asked about the direction. There you go. 2 minutes and 14 seconds after liftoff, main engine cutoff, second stage separation, and second engine start. It's a 2-stage rocket. The reusable first stage will then begin its automated return to the launch site for a powered landing. How about that? 3 minutes and 5 seconds. This is a different rocket. This is not the super heavy rocket that powers the SpaceX Starship, which is still being developed. This is the Falcon 9 rocket. After 3 minutes and 5 seconds, after projecting the satellite as the rocket traveled through the atmosphere, the launch vehicle's fairing or nose cone will separate in two halves and be jettisoned. 7 minutes, 9 seconds, stage 2 engine cutoff will take place, putting the launch vehicle and spacecraft in a coast phase. 39 minutes, stage 2 first restart will occur in roughly 40-second burn, followed by stage 2 engine cutoff. 42 minutes, launch vehicle and spacecraft will separate. 43 minutes, initial acquisition of signal from spacecraft. The actual SPHEREx, I assume when they say the spacecraft, they mean the telescope, right? No, am I wrong about this? The SPHEREx spacecraft will orbit Earth about 404 miles overhead. Yeah, they talk about the entire mission. How is it going to work, though? I'm confused. So there's the SPHEREx, and then there's also these punch satellites. Where are those? Now I'm confused. When do the satellites get released? Because that's part of this mission too. I thought like the spacecraft would be inside. Wouldn't I thought maybe they were going to release this thing. Well, I'm officially confused. Yeah, Lazy Savior says the live stream will explain it. But this says blah, 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 blah. No, I have questions. I'm guessing, I agree. I'm guessing that'll be answered in the live stream presentation. Kitty Donahue says SpaceX website says it deploys at T plus 41 minutes. SpaceX has something on this, I guess, too, on their website. Hang on. Do they? I'm trying to go. I'm looking at the SpaceX website right now. Here it is, launches. SPHEREx mission. Okay. There's a page on the SpaceX site, SPHEREx mission. Oh, I'm going to post a link to this in the chat. You can pull it up yourself. There's they actually, I didn't even realize this was here. Thanks for letting me know. So there's a whole page about the launch on the SpaceX site. And they say that the payload separation happens when? 4156 in, they say SPHEREx deploys. And then 5216, first two satellites deploy. And 5307, second two satellites deploy. Maybe they'll have an animation. In 2 minutes, I'll post the link again. You can look at it on the SpaceX website. They have a description of the launch, landing of the first rocket stage, and deployment. Ooh, hold on a minute. Give me a moment here. Give me a moment here. Yeah, NASA is going to start soon. Let me just get prepared here, guys. I just need to get prepared to show you the live shot. The live stream, sorry. We get rid of that. Now this is going to be... One moment, please. One moment, please. Okay, that's good. And then the other thing I need to do is this. Why is that all messed up? Why is that all messed up? Oh, I see. Sorry, it's not messed up at all. Okay. So NASA has not started their broadcast yet. They're not actually talking. It's any moment now they're supposed to start. So when they start, I will go to it. How does that sound? TJ Adams says, sounds like it has multiple payloads. That's what I thought, that it had the satellite and the telescope. But maybe it's the kind, there's a fairing on it. So maybe the idea is that it's not like a spacecraft with stuff inside it. It's just like somehow the telescope and the satellites have maybe some sort of covering over it or something, and the covering goes away. YM says it deploys itself once it's in space. All right. Really, any moment now, NASA event should start. So I'm peeking at it. I have my eyes on it. This is NASA's latest space telescope, SPHEREx. And we are bringing you live coverage. All right, they're just starting now. They're just about to start. Hang on. I'm going to go to the coverage. Give me a moment here. Hang on. Let me put it on the screen for you. Now, is it music? All right, let me see. What's the sound right now? What is it? Oh, I got to put myself on the other side. All right, there we go. Now, wait a second here. Oh, I think I have it muted. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to mute it.
On the sun's outer M.
I have to wait till the music stops. I have to wait till the music stops. So let me wait till the music stops. Also, obviously, this is not the U.S. Capitol. SPHEREx. Okay, hold on. Can we hear them now?
And rocket that's set to launch in just 53 minutes from Vandenberg Space Force Base. This one launch is carrying 2 missions. SPHEREx, a space telescope that will map our cosmos, and Punch, 4 small satellites that will study the sun's outer layer. Hello and welcome to Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. I'm NASA's Raquel Villanueva, bringing you live coverage from the heart of the spacecraft and launch vehicle operations on base. Joining me today is Farah Alibay, SPHEREx Flight Systems Engineer. Thanks for being here, Farah.
I'm so excited to be back with you today.
Well, it's great to have you. NASA's Launch Services Program, also known as LSP, is managing today's launch. And just a few feet away, teams are hard at work preparing for T-0. NASA and SpaceX called off yesterday's Falcon 9 launch of the SPHEREx and Punch missions due to weather and a SPHEREx ground data issue.
That's right. There was an issue that was found yesterday early in the countdown. It was a communication issue between the Payload Operations Center that's based at JPL and the ground stations that receive the data from the spacecraft once it's in orbit. The team at JPL worked all night and all day to find the issue and fix it, and they're now ready for launch. And you know, bumps like that, bumps in the road like that, they happen. Space is just difficult, and I could not be more proud of the team that resolved all of these issues today. And of course, yesterday we were also really worried about clouds. I learned so much in the past 48 hours about thick clouds and rocket-induced lightning. I feel like an expert now in clouds.
I could say that you are, and I just want you to know that weather is looking good for tonight. So we are now heading towards a launch that is targeted for 8, 10, 12 p.m. Pacific time. And as you know, Goddard Space Flight Center oversees Punch, while JPL manages SPHEREx.
That's right. So SPHEREx is really a partnership of many, many different institutions. We have contributions from Caltech, from BAE Systems that built the spacecraft. That's where we did the integration. We have university partners, international partners, but the whole thing, the management oversight and the systems engineering oversight comes from JPL. And once we launch and we're operating it, the operations center is also at JPL.
Well, Farah, we look forward to your insight tonight. Yeah. Thank you. And as we continue to monitor important launch milestones, remember there are plenty of ways you can participate in this broadcast.
For one, if you have any questions about anything we're talking about today, send them our way.
That's right. Submit them online using the Ask NASA hashtag, and we will try to answer as many of them as we can live. So, SPHEREx's journey to the launch pad took the Space Telescope across the western U.S. The observatory was assembled at BAE Systems in Boulder, Colorado. After assembly, it was driven across the Rockies all the way to Vandenberg Space Force Base. Punch was built at the Southwest Research Institute's headquarters in San Antonio, Texas. From there, it was shipped to Vandenberg for comprehensive testing on all 4 satellites. SPHEREx and Punch were then integrated with the launch carrier in a Falcon 9 rocket. Now, let's head over to SpaceX Mission Control in Hawthorne, California, where our team of NASA and SpaceX commentators are standing by.
SpaceX and NASA. It's SpaceX, I guess.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jessie Anderson, a senior production manager here at SpaceX. And joining me once again today are Megan Cruz and Mick Waltman from NASA. It's so great to have you both here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us again. And I'm really feeling good about launch today.
Yes, it's feeling real good tonight. Right behind us is our factory in Hawthorne, where we build our Falcon 9 rockets and Dragon spacecraft. Countdown to launch began about 7 hours ago. And right now we are targeting liftoff at 8:10 p.m. Pacific time from Space Launch Complex 4E at Vandenberg Space Force Base.
And I couldn't be more excited to say that right now we are green with weather.
Yes.
The 3 of us have been keeping an eye on weather all day because going into the launch countdown today, we were concerned about weather, but really it's been trending so much better, Mick.
Yeah, compared to last night, Space Force Launch Weather Officer Lieutenant Park just finished up our weather brief for the launch team. We are looking at less than 10% for tonight's T0.
That's still a lot,
great from our thick cloud rule and the way weather's going. Of course, weather is one crucial point of launching rockets, but you mentioned Launch Services Program. That's where we come in. We act as a broker for the spacecraft customer, in this case, JPL, ensuring that missions like SPHEREx and Punch, they get the best possible ride to space. We coordinate with our commercial partners to make sure that everything is happening well. So today we selected SpaceX, and we are looking for a great ride for SPHEREx and Punch to put them in that sun-synchronous orbit to Earth.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about that orbit during the broadcast. But I do want to point out, you were mentioning that LSP selects the best provider for each mission. LSP has selected SpaceX for 11 launches now.
Yes, and we are so excited for another mission with you all. Over the last 10 years, we've launched incredible NASA science missions that have gone to low Earth orbit and beyond, most recently SWAT, PACE, and Europa Clipper. SpaceX is super excited to help unlock new discoveries in astrophysics and heliophysics with SPHEREx and Punch. And today is actually SpaceX's first rideshare mission with NASA Launch Services.
Yes.
And our next one will be with the Tracers mission, which is scheduled for later this year.
Hey guys, take a look at that live look at the launch pad right there. Not many clouds overhead,
Looks
so
amazing.
that's great.
Looking great, looking great.
Again, the 3 of us are going to keep an eye on that weather and commentate through the major milestones throughout today's launch. Then next up, we're going to have the NASA Launch Manager poll to see if teams are going to start fueling the Falcon 9. Back to you, Raquel and Farah.
All right,
Thank
hang
you
on.
so much, Megan.
We did a
And
poll.
Jessie,
Thanks for
Farah,
voting in our poll.
We have so much to look forward tonight, including that weather.
Absolutely, and we have lots of guests from both the SPHEREx and the Punch missions that are going to join us today so that we can ask them all sorts of questions.
Exactly, like engineers from the launch will show us how a special orbit helps SPHEREx and Punch by keeping their view of Earth and space consistent every day.
Real quick, we did a poll. Will the launch be successful? 71% on Twitch said yes. 77% on YouTube, and what was it on Facebook? Facebook was 75% said yes. So most of you think yes. Thanks for voting in our poll. I hope it's successful.
09:57 p.m. Pacific time. And stay tuned as we gear up for the launch of 2 missions. Now, SPHEREx is loaded with high-tech components to help it map our cosmos. So let's take a look at some of those specs right now. SPHEREx is about the size of a small car and weighs a little less than a grand piano at about 1,100 pounds. It will orbit.
Thank you so much for having us.
So let's take a look at some of those specs right now. SPHEREx is about the size of a small car and keeps the parts inside cool. SPHEREx will create a map of the entire sky, taking images in every direction, like scanning the inside of a globe. The all-sky map will have 102 different color bands, each a different wavelength of light. This far exceeds the color resolution of previous all-sky maps. SPHEREx will observe over 450 million galaxies with its wide-field telescope. This map will help scientists better understand what happened within the first fractions of a second after the Big Bang. It will also shed new light on how galaxies form and evolve, and where water and ice and other building blocks of life come from. And Farah, we have people from all over the world watching today's launch, and they are sending in some questions. So why don't we get to a few right now?
Let's do it.
All right, coming up, we have Universal Gibson on Instagram who wants to know, how far away in time will SPHEREx be able to observe?
So SPHEREx is creating a 3D map of the universe that's going to help us understand what happened in the first, and wait for it, trillionth of a trillionth of a billionth of a second after the Big Bang. So it's really the very beginning of our universe that we're going to be able to understand with the science that SPHEREx is doing.
Wow, and another question we have coming in, Daniel Burt on Instagram wants to know, how can we see a 14.8 billion year old photon from the universe's start?
Well, so really what SPHEREx is doing is it's taking the current structure of the universe, and actually Olivier Doré is going to come and explain that to us later. But by studying the structure as it is right now, we can sort of hit rewind on it and understand what happened at the very beginning of the universe. But one of the things also is that we're taking images in infrared, and so we'll hear from Phil later about how we passively cool our instruments so that we can be really sensitive to those photons that are coming to us in our detectors.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for answering those questions. We will have more. Keep them coming using the NASA hashtag. We have some punch questions a little later on in the broadcast as well. Now it's time for another check-in on the launch countdown with the team in Hawthorne, California.
Launching from California, Vandenberg Space Force
Great.
Base
Thanks for
is where it's
Cal.
launching from.
We are just about a minute away from NASA pulling its teams to make sure that we're ready to start loading propellants on Falcon 9.
Yeah, and it's the NASA launch manager, Dr. Denton Gibson. He's the one who's going to be leading the poll. We'll soon hear his voice here. Again, weather, we expected that to be a watch item, but 20 minutes ago we got that weather briefing. Mick, who else are we going to hear reporting out to Dr. Gibson?
Yeah, so NOM will be checking with the teams from the NASA side to make sure that the rocket and the spacecraft look good for launch. He'll be checking with engineering, mission management, safety mission assurance, the spacecraft, of course, and our program to make sure that everybody's good to proceed into propellant loading on the Falcon 9. So we'll get ready for that poll here in about 20 seconds, and we'll hear the NOM poll that team to make sure that we can get into propellant loading.
Again, a beautiful shot of the launch pad at Vandenberg Space Force Base.
Great sunset view. We might get a nice twilight at launch tonight.
Yeah, and there you have it at the top there, the payload fairings with our 5 spacecraft on top. We have SPHEREx, that's 1 spacecraft, and then Punch is comprised of 4, so 5 spacecraft inside the payload fairing there.
About 50 miles northwest of Santa Barbara, California, near the coast. Maybe right on the coast. Yeah, it's right next to the coast pretty much.
We're standing by for the NASA Launch Manager poll.
They turned their volume down. Waiting for the NASA Launch Manager poll.
Okay, I'm going to speak as loudly as I can.
A look at the clock, 42 minutes, 8 seconds from liftoff.
For the stage 2 CCAM and the Punch spacecraft, and I looked back at the link margin analysis, and we do have the backup station.
That's a good copy. And the backup station, the HPK, is what flight ops was telling me.
Yes.
Good copy. NASA team, this is NLM on NLMnet, and I'm going to conduct the propellant load and launch readiness poll, starting with NASA CE.
NASA CE, go.
SMA.
SMA is go.
SMD.
SMD?
NASA MEM.
NASA MEM's go.
Okay.
LSP.
LSP is go.
Circling back to SMD.
SMD?
SMD is go on NLMnet.
Copy that. NASA team is ready for propellant load and launch.
Wow, that's a good sign. Ready for propellant load and launch, guys.
All right, so again, the NASA team is go to start loading propellant into the Falcon 9.
This is the LD on
so
countdown 1, performing a launch status verification. NLM, are you cleared to proceed with the launch auto sequence?
NASA team is ready to proceed.
LDA, is the range ready to proceed?
Range is ready, and you are clear to launch.
All right.
Ready to launch. That's good.
The range is green. All great call-outs. Again, with that live look of the pad, we are targeting a T0 of 8,
is complete, and we are
10,
go
12.
for propellant loading. For non-urgent conditions, no-go conditions, brief the CE or LD, and they will approve aborting the auto sequence. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold, hold, hold on the countdown net. Launch control will abort the launch auto sequence immediately and proceed into the launch abort auto sequence. At T-minus 10 seconds, launch control will be hands-off and relying on automated abort criteria for the remainder of the count.
This is NASA's newest space telescope. Going to be making an all-sky map. 2-year mission. It is launching on a Falcon 9 SpaceX rocket.
All right, so guys, you're going to notice that we're going to pause whenever we hear out those call-outs on the net, just so that you can have some insight into what we're listening to, and so that you can also follow along with the latest launch updates. For now, let's send it back to Raquel and Farah as we continue with the loading propellant into the Falcon 9.
Thank you so much, Megan, Mick, and Jesse. SPHERex is set to join NASA's fleet of space telescopes. It will complement the work of more targeted missions by providing a big picture view of the universe. Here to tell us more is Jamie Bach, the principal investigator. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jamie.
Exciting to be here.
You know, SPHERex is designed to tackle some pretty big cosmic questions. What are some of the biggest mysteries scientists hope to answer?
Well, with SPHERex, we're using a new capability. We're mapping the entire sky in 102 near-infrared colors, and with that new capability, that lets us address some really fundamental, exciting questions. So the first one is, where's the water? The Earth's oceans are thought to have originated from water in interstellar space in the form of ice. And so SPHERex is going to map the abundance of water and other organic ices along millions of lines of sight over our galaxy in a way that's never been done before.
No, Jamie.
We're also going to measure the total glow produced by galaxies, and that glow traces all the light made by galaxies over cosmic time from their formation through their evolution. And then finally, we're going to make a giant 3D map of distant galaxies using their positions and distances. And that map, those galaxies trace out structures set up by the Big Bang itself. And so we can use that map to learn more about how the universe began.
That reminded me of another question that we get all the time from viewers. What is the difference between space telescopes like James Webb and SPHERex?
Well, so imagine you're at Everest Base Camp, and if you have a telephoto lens, like a big telescope like JWST, you can zoom in and see mountaineers on the very summit of the mountain. But if you have SPHERex, it's like the pano mode on your iPhone. And so with SPHERex, you get a view of the whole Himalayan range. So those are very different and very complementary ways of looking at the universe.
And Jamie, this is really your baby. I mean, every time we make a technical decision, we always ask ourselves, how do we get Jamie his science? We're here today. How are you feeling?
It really is like having a kid. And SPHERex was a baby at one point, but it's grown up and it's ready to walk out the door now and make a name for itself. It's both, tense, emotional, and exciting all at the same time.
You can tell he's
Fantastic.
excited.
And where will you be watching launch today?
Oh, I'm going to go outside and look at it in person as it takes off the pad. Totally.
Great.
Wave it goodbye one last time.
Thank you so much for joining us today,
my
Jamie.
pleasure.
We really appreciate you taking the time. So let's head back to the team at Hawthorne.
Jay Kahn says, hope it works out for Jamie. Yeah, he was really excited.
Thanks, Raquel. Let's take a moment to meet today's vehicle, which is on the pad right there on your screen. Falcon 9 is a two-stage rocket. It is the first and currently the only orbital-class rocket capable of reflight. Starting at the top of the vehicle is the payload fairing, a protective shell that encases the payloads being sent to space today. Now, made up of two halves, the fairing will separate from the vehicle once Falcon 9 has climbed out of Earth's dense lower atmosphere. And today's fairing halves are brand new and will be flying for their first time. They'll be retrieved by our recovery vessel, Go Beyond, after launch. Now, continuing down the vehicle, we have the second stage. The second stage is powered by a single Merlin vacuum, or MVAC engine, which is optimized to perform in the vacuum of space. Below that is the first stage, which contains 8 engines arranged around one center engine, all of which are held in place by a structure called the octaweb. Now, each of these 9 Merlin 1D engines delivers about 190,000 pounds of thrust at sea level.
The launch auto sequence has started,
which gives Falcon 9 a combined 1.7 million pounds of thrust during liftoff. The Falcon 9 first stage is also equipped with 4 landing legs that deploy to allow for a vertical landing on a drone ship or landing pad. And the booster supporting today's mission is flying for its 3rd time tonight, having previously supported NROL 126 and Transporter 12. After stage separation, the first stage will head back to Earth, this time targeting a landing at Landing Zone 4 at Vandenberg. And we should have begun propellant loading. That begins at the T-minus 35-minute mark. So we're about 40 seconds into propellant loading.
All right, Jesse, you mentioned the booster coming back to landing zone 4. That's only about 1,400 feet from where the Falcon 9 will launch from.
Yeah, that is correct, Megan. Being able to launch and land from locations so close to each other makes reusability significantly easier. And in order to do that, after stage separation, the booster has to flip immediately, fire its engines with a boost back burn to start heading the opposite direction, and that it will initially be flying at 17,500 miles per hour to make its way back towards land.
All right, so RP1 is now loading into the Falcon 9's first stage. So we've locked in that T0 for today, 8, 10, 12. We will see you back here in a few minutes when we begin loading propellant into the second stage. Over to you, Raquel and Farah.
Thank you so much. Riding along with SPHERex is another mission called Punch. It consists of 4 suitcase-sized satellites that weigh about 140 pounds each. They will focus on the sun's outer atmosphere, the corona, and how it generates the solar wind. The spacecraft will also track coronal mass ejections, which are large eruptions of solar material that can drive large space weather events near Earth. The 4 satellites will spread out around the Earth along the day-night line, which enables the constellation to remain in constant sunlight as it creates a continuous, complete view of the corona and solar wind. 3 of the Punch satellites carry an identical wide field imager. The 4th Punch satellite carries a compact coronagraph, which will study the sun's corona and surrounding star field. All 4 cameras will be synchronized in flight so that the science team can combine their images into a 90-degree field of view. Now, Punch will help scientists understand how the sun's energy and particles travel through space and affect Earth. So let's take a closer look at how this is done.
PUNCH is an acronym. It stands for polarimeter.
I got to pause during the music. So everything is good so far. Everything is good so far. Let me take a few quick comments. By the way, thanks so much to Ken Lance, Freedom Can, Ryan2426, and Kiwi for your support. I really appreciate it. Also, Fifth Survivor Fifth Survivor thinks the Russians are up to something bad in space. I think it might be related to Ukraine. That's what Fifth Survivor says. Thanks for your support. And let's see here. We are 31 minutes and 30 seconds away. Let's see here. Hang on. Yeah, I don't know what music they have, so I need to be careful. XXXZ says, is it SpaceX doing the launching and NASA developed the telescope? Well, it's a SpaceX rocket, but I think NASA is overseeing the launch. I think it's a NASA launch. That's what I don't believe it's I think NASA's the lead on this. That's my understanding, at least. Roxco thinks it's a NASA launch using SpaceX. Now, I'm guessing there's people from both involved, but that's my understanding. Hopefully it goes all right. You know, a question I have, I don't know the answer. Let's hope nothing happens with the launch. If something happens with the launch, like, how hard is it for them to, like, build another SPHEREx? Maybe somebody, if you want to message a question to them, feel free to message that one. If something happened during the launch, how long could they build another SPHEREx? Like, or is that just like too costly and time consuming? I don't know. Oh, hold on a second here. We got to go back.
Or go to science.nasa.gov/mission/punch. And with us now is Peg Luce, Deputy Director of NASA's Heliophysics Division. Great to have you join us.
Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you.
Yeah, let's start with a punch question. Why are you interested in imaging the solar wind and the outer corona in 3D?
So we are interested in seeing how the charged particles that come from the sun make their way all the way throughout the solar system, especially to Earth. As those particles come to Earth, they can cause aurora, which are beautiful, but they can harm astronauts in space, they can harm satellite electronics, and they can disrupt GPS signals. So by looking in 3D, we can better predict exactly how that space weather is going to reach wherever we're looking at, the Earth or Mars or wherever we are concerned about where people will be. So it's really helps us improve our prediction.
All right, really quick, they're talking about the Punch mission, which is the other mission being launched by this rocket. It's SPHEREx and Punch is 4 satellites that are going to study the sun.
Punch is going to be part of the heliophysics fleet of satellites. Heliophysics is the study of the sun, the solar wind, and how it affects the entire heliosphere, the entire solar system. So there are different satellites that look at the phenomena close to the sun, and different ones that study how the effects on Earth are done. And Punch will be bridging a gap that we currently don't have in seeing how those solar eruptions actually travel. And we can see them up close at the sun, and we see what's happening once they're far away, but we haven't been able to track them the way Punch will be able to do.
Oh, very neat.
And, you know, NASA is launching these 2 science missions at once. Can you explain how this is an efficient approach?
So, for one thing, heliophysics is a science that benefits from multiple spacecraft flying together. And so we've been flying multiple spacecraft on the same launch vehicle for a long time. As rockets have gotten more capable, we are more able to fly different missions together. And so it's tremendous. It gives us an ability to maximize the return on the investment in the launch vehicle, get more science into space for the same investment. And it's more complicated, but it's absolutely worth it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
Enjoy the launch.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Now, let's go beyond our home star and peer back in time. SPHERex is going to investigate some of the biggest questions about the very beginning of our universe. To do that, it will study light so distant it has taken 10 billion years to reach Earth. Here's more on what we hope to learn.
It's going to be music, and I got to turn it off. Yeah, I can't play the music. So anyways, so they're talking about what SPHERex can do. They also have some resources on like their YouTube page and their web page if you want to check those out about SPHERex. Hey, it'll give us a chance to take a few comments here. By the way, thanks so much to our moderators as we get closer to this launch, 26 minutes. We have moderating right now. Ruth Krafasi is over there on YouTube. Thank you so much, Ruth. Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X. Over there on Twitch, our moderators, A Moment of Lovely, Good Duck Duck, Mark HNC, Matthew Kohai 3, McBritches, Surly, Devin, Tariag, and on Facebook, Kay Lowry Body over there. Thanks to all of our moderators, Paul Anderson, Margaret Riley. Thank you, moderators. Something else to keep in mind. So we have covered some of these SpaceX Starship launches. Starship is the new launch vehicle that SpaceX is developing, which has the Super Heavy rocket and the Starship spacecraft. That's different from this. This launch uses a Falcon 9 SpaceX rocket, but I will say the last two Starship test launches, which we've covered in January and just a few days ago, both had failures where about 8-9 minutes in or so, the Starship spacecraft had an issue and ended up getting destroyed. So I'm guessing SpaceX would like to they have another launch tonight. They have where they're launching satellites. So I'm guessing SpaceX would like to do some more successful launches after those. I mean, it's a different program, but just to clarify, again, those two test launches were not the Falcon 9 rocket. They were the Super Heavy booster, which worked, and as far as I'm aware, and the SpaceX and the Starship spacecraft, which had issues on both of those test flights shortly after separating from the Super Heavy booster. What is off the cuff asked about the chance of it being successful? I don't know that. I mean, it seems like the Falcon 9 rockets are doing pretty well. I can't put a numerical value on the odds of there being an issue. Our viewer Shinchan says Falcon 9 is extremely reliable. The other launch is SpaceX is doing a launch of some more Starlink satellites in Florida a little after this launch. They do those fairly regularly, I believe. Our viewer, Always Chasing the Rain, says it should be fine. 417 Keith thinks there's a 98% success chance. All right, hold on a second here.
Getting those first pictures, and really it's going to be the twinkle in the scientists' eyes when they get that data and make those big discoveries.
Fantastic. And for more SPHERex mission updates, check out the QR code on your screen or go to nasa.gov/SPHERex. And joining us now is SPHERex program scientist John Wisniewski. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here. We are excited.
Absolutely. We have heard about the benefits of today's rideshare. So what does it take for our teams to launch these two science missions together?
Yeah, so we think about this very carefully when we're, seeing whether missions are appropriate to be ride sharers. The first thing we think about is do they need to go into the same orbit, into a similar orbit, right? That's kind of criteria number one. We also are looking at, what's the timeline for the development of both of the potential missions. You need them to be ready at the same time, right? Do they have compatible mass and size requirements as well, and also technical details like, is one mission going to contaminate another mission, so things like that. And so in the case of SPHERex and Punch, they both had all these compatible criteria, and we're good rideshare partners, and we are really excited to be able to deliver two science missions, with one launch vehicle. It's a great, efficient way to launch two science programs at once.
For sure. And so astrophysics it's a really large field with a lot of existential questions. Can you talk to us a little bit about which piece of the puzzle SPHERex is going to be answering?
Yeah, sure. So in NASA Astrophysics, really our portfolio is answering three fundamental themes, right? One is, what is the physics of the cosmos? What are our cosmic origins? And then a really profound question of, are we alone? And it's really cool that SPHERex is touching on all three of those themes in some small way. So that was the primary driver of the SPHERex mission. And in addition to that, it's going to be delivering a legacy data set that astronomers are going to be using for literally the next decades to not only answer those questions, but also questions we haven't even thought of yet.
That's fascinating. And what big takeaways will viewers at home potentially get from the discovery made by these missions?
Yeah, so again, it's going after those three key themes. Really, they're profound questions. How did we get here? How have galaxies evolved over time? And what was the instant right after the Big Bang? And I think that is really inspiring. It's inspiring to me. I know it's inspiring to the science team. And I think it's inspiring, to all of our listeners at home as well.
John, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks. Go SPHERex.
Yeah. Go SPHERex. NASA has set its sights on deep space exploration, but before that, we're returning to the moon. Here's more with your Artemis Moon Minute.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. They're playing it's the Artemis Moon Minute, but unfortunately it has music on it, so I can't play it. We have 20 minutes now left before the launch. I believe the last NASA major telescope launch was the Webb Space Telescope, which was December 25th, 2021. So this would be the first NASA major telescope launch in about, over 3 years. Yeah, I have it up there. People keep asking where the launch is. Vandenberg Space Force Base, California, which is about 50 miles west-northwest of Santa Barbara on the California coast. Hey, thank you, Red Squirrel 82, and also Evil Bunny for your support. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And Kiwi. Thank you, Kiwi. Homer Simpson says, so excited to see the streak out in the sky out back. I guess Homer Simpson, our viewer, lives near the launch. So 19 minutes, guys. I think they're still playing the music. Let's see.
Better withstand.
Yeah, they're still playing the music. Thank you also. Red Squirrel 82. So nice of you, Red Squirrel 82. Thank you. Oh, here we go. They're back.
Scan the QR code on your screen to learn more about the upcoming Artemis II launch and what's planned for our Moon to Mars program. And it's been a busy week on the moon for NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services Initiative, or CLPS, where we've been delivering payloads to the lunar surface ahead of future Artemis missions. On March 2nd, Firefly's Blue Ghost Mission 1 successfully landed on the moon, carrying 10 NASA science and technology instruments. They are the first commercial company to execute a successful soft landing on the moon. And Fire, take a look at that beautiful video.
Such a cool video. I think I've seen it 10 times.
And just last week, Intuitive Machines' IM-2 mission achieved a historic feat, the southernmost lunar landing and surface operations ever. Although the IM-2 mission ended prematurely due to the lander's orientation, the data collected will provide invaluable insights into this challenging lunar region. And Farah, how about we answer some more of those SPHERex questions coming in? All right. We have one actually that talks about the launch window and the times that are being heard. Can you explain what 8:10 and 8:09 mean?
Yes, I think we've talked about this a lot, right? So we are trying to target a particular orbit. And in order to do that, we need to launch at a specific time. And we have to launch between 8:09:57 and 8:10:27. So it's that 30-second window in which we can launch. So what we did is we looked at, a few hours ago, we looked at, is there any collision risk? There weren't. And so what the team did is they decided to launch right in the middle of that window. That's really the optimal time to get right on that orbit. And that's why you heard us say that we're launching at 8, 10, and 12 seconds precisely. And that's going to be our launch time today.
Fantastic. And thank you to Luke for that question on Instagram. Luke C on Twitter, on X actually. And We also have Rob V on YouTube who wants to know, how long will it take to map?
So the prime mission for SPHEREx is 2 years, and during that time we're going to take 4 full maps of the universe. And so that's really the amount of time that we want to spend, but there is no propellant on board the SPHEREx. There's nothing that we're going to, that's going to deplete over time, so we hope that the mission's going to last much longer than that.
Well, thank you so much, Farah. Keep those questions coming using the hashtag #AskNASA. With Falcon 9, second stage locks loading about to begin. As you just heard, let's send it back to Megan, Mick, and Jesse.
Welcome back to SpaceX in Hawthorne, California, where Megan, Mick, and I are just outside of Mission Control.
Yeah, and Jesse, SpaceX started fueling its first stage about 20 minutes ago. So how's that looking right now?
Yeah, we're a little bit over halfway done. RP1 loading is already complete on the second stage, and we're just about 80% complete on RP1 for stage 1 and about 60% complete of liquid oxygen loading on stage 1. And we are just about to start loading liquid oxygen on stage 2 at the T-minus 16 minute mark, which we should hear a call out for that in a few seconds.
Again, a great view of the rocket on the pad there. And at the tippy top, we told you that that is the payload fairings. And inside are the spacecrafts, which were encapsulated inside those payload fairings last week.
Yeah, and as Jesse mentioned earlier, talking about the Falcon 9 rocket, those are brand new payload fairings, and SpaceX will retrieve those with their recovery vessel Go Beyond. Inside that payload fairing, we have SPHEREx, our primary mission, which is 1 spacecraft, Punch, which is made up of 4 spacecraft. So deployment tonight, we will see 5 spacecraft deploy into a sun-synchronous orbit.
All in the top there.
Now, we were saying that the propellants are RP1 or rocket-grade kerosene and super cold liquid oxygen. Why those fuels and how do they launch a rocket?
Yeah, Megan. So RP1 is the fuel component. Liquid oxygen is our oxidizer, which we cool down to make it as dense as possible. Increasing density enables us to load more of it into the vehicle. And with a fuel and an oxidizer, we still need an ignition source. So we use TTEB, or triethyl aluminum and triethyl borane, which combust when combined, lighting our fuel and oxidizer to create that thrust. It's a pretty efficient system that not only gets SPHEREx and Punch into space, but also allows the booster to fly back to Earth and land for another mission.
Yeah, and SPHEREx is going to scan our entire universe to gather data on billions of stars and galaxies, and then Punch. We'll study our sun's corona to better forecast when space weather will affect us on Earth. And Mick, again, you're with NASA's Launch Services Program, which determined that both those missions could fly together on this one launch.
Yeah, as we just heard in a previous interview, we did. We looked at those mission requirements. We assessed the missions, found that both could be delivered to that sun-synchronous polar orbit that we want to get to this evening. The 2 missions sharing a ride on 1 rocket are very efficient, and it also gives us the most availability for our launch opportunities throughout the time period of the science. So again, looking at both of these ride shares, our first one for LSP, we're excited for launch tonight.
Yeah, again, headed to what's called a sun-synchronous polar orbit. And why does that work for both missions? Well, check out my interview with LSP engineers Philip Hargrove and Mark Hemmons.
Okay, Mark, Philip told me to wear yellow today. Why?
Right, so we're going to do a little demo. So you're the sun, that's why you're wearing yellow, and I'm the Earth, that's why I'm wearing blue and green, and this hula hoop is going to represent the orbit, or the path that the satellites are going to take around the Earth. So we have to pay attention to a lot of things. One of them is the orientation relative to the Earth, so that's this inclination, and then also the orientation relative to the sun. So as the Earth moves around the sun throughout the year, it's possible that we could be facing away from the sun, we could be facing towards the sun, and for this mission, we want to be facing towards the sun the entire time. So we choose a sun-synchronous orbit so that the twist of the orbit throughout the year is aligned with the Earth's rotation around the sun. So no matter where or when, we're always going to be in this orientation.
Gotcha. So I should always see every part of this orbit.
Yes.
Why is that important for the SPHEREx and Punch missions?
Sure. For SPHEREx, you can't look at the spacecraft without seeing this large cone on top. And that's because this is a photon shield designed to protect the sensitive instrumentation inside. And what it's sensitive to is to the sun. So with the sun always in this direction, that means we know the sun's never on this side. So that's the safe side. So that's when SPHEREx can go ahead and operate in the orbit in this direction, do their celestial sky observations, always working on this backside of the orbit, the safe side. Punch, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. It wants to study the sun. It wants to see the solar wind, the solar weather emanating from the sun coming to Earth. So this is a perfect orbit for them as they go around, because they'll go ahead and get maximum viewing time of the sun.
You know, we've been talking about in the broadcast how Punch is actually made up of 4 satellites. SPHERex is 1. So basically you have 5 spacecraft that you're relatively, you know, near each other as it's going around the Earth. How do you make sure that they don't interfere with one another?
Right, sure. We do a couple things because you're right, that is very important. First thing is SPHERex is going to go ahead and separate, pointing away from the sun, obviously, so they're going to separate in this direction. After SPHERex separates, the Falcon's going to do a small altitude lowering maneuver with their attitude control thrusters, just to lower by a couple kilometers, so they're not exactly the same orbit. And then the Punch spacecraft are going to separate in different directions. So the first 2 Punch spacecraft are going to separate equal and opposite along the velocity vector. The other 2 canted off that vector. So that puts them all in different directions, even SPHERex in different directions, keeping them all safely moving apart from one another.
Because SPHERex doesn't want to be affected by the sun, can't be affected by the sun, were there special considerations on the ascent up?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's all about protecting the spacecraft and keeping the sun out of this top half. So what we're going to do is, normally we launch out of Vandenberg directly into the orbit plane, but instead we're going to launch east of the orbit plane we want to be in. That puts us on the dark side, or in the shadow, during those early phases of the mission. So as we then come out of shadow, we'll coast down to the South Pole. We'll circularize the orbit in the second burn and also do a plane change to put us in that sun-synchronous orbit plane we want to be in. So that keeps it safe for the spacecraft.
Guys, I know a lot of work and time went into, you know, all these considerations that you just walked us through. I just really appreciate you guys taking the time to explain it so easily to us. Thank you so much.
You got it. Thank you.
That was neat.
Thanks, Megan. That was a great explanation of the orbit both missions will use. And if you're just joining us, we are approaching 10 minutes until liftoff. Farah, the moment is finally here.
Oh my God, my heart is beating so fast. I'm so excited.
So I know we are going to talk to you more about that in a minute, but we've also been taking your live questions tonight. So let's get to a few more.
Okay,
right?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Just distracting me.
I know. We have one from Stardom Observatory on YouTube who asks, how long do you think it will take before we get the first images from SPHERex?
So today we'll be separating from the launch vehicle. We'll actually get the first bits of data, hopefully very soon after separation. Definitely the team is going to be working through the night. And then we go through a commissioning period. So we'll take a few days to make sure everything is good. Then we'll power on the instrument. So it's going to take a little while, but we hope that commissioning period will take about a month to 6 weeks. And then after that, we'll be moving into the real science. But even during that commissioning period, we'll be getting some images too.
That'll be great to see those first images come in. So keep those questions coming using the hashtag AskNASA. And Farah, launch is just minutes away now, so tell us how much this moment means for you and your team.
You know, I've been on this mission for about 3 years now. I saw the spacecraft grow from, paper design to being built and tested. We shipped it then from BAE Systems in Boulder, Colorado over to here. And now we've spent about 2 months here processing. We're getting ready for launch. It's really, really a big moment. And, the team has gone through such difficult times with the fires recently in LA, COVID, right when we were designing the spacecraft. So I know everyone is extremely proud and really excited to be here today.
And where were your team by watching tonight?
So we have a lot of our team members in this building here at Vandenberg Space Force Base looking at the data, participating in those polls. We have people at the SpaceX building, and we also have part of the team at JPL at the Mission Operations Center, because once we launch, they will be the ones taking over operations, and they'll be working there through the night, taking care of the spacecraft.
All right. Well, Farah, we are now under 9 minutes until liftoff of SPHERex and Punch on a Falcon 9 rocket here at Vandenberg Space Force Base.
Just about 8 minutes,
now,
guys.
Let's head over to SpaceX Mission Control in Hawthorne, California, where our team of NASA and SpaceX commentators will count us down to liftoff.
Here we go. 8 minutes.
Thanks, Raquel. If you're just joining us, I'm Jessie Anderson, a senior production manager here at SpaceX, and joining me are Megan Cruz and Mick Waltman from NASA.
Thanks, Jessie.
Yeah, the three of us have been commentating through the launch countdown, and we're going to continue to do that for about an hour after liftoff to show teams deploying the SPHERex and Punch spacecrafts into space.
Yeah, SpaceX started fueling the Falcon 9 at about T-minus 35 minutes, and things are looking really good as we load propellants. We should hear a call out here soon as we get ready for engine chill at about T-minus 7 minutes. Engine chill is where we flow a small amount of that liquid oxygen into the engine to prepare for full flow at the cryogenic temperatures that the Merlin engines will see.
Yeah, exactly. And after that, stage 1 will wrap up RP1 loading around the T-minus 6 minute mark. Then stage 1 liquid oxygen loading will wrap up at T-minus 3 minutes, and stage 2 at T-minus 2 minutes before launch. And we are coming up on that T-minus 7 minute mark that Mick mentioned. Stage 1 engine chill coming up here in a couple seconds. Perfect timing. There's that call out for engine chill.
All right, so the SPHEREx spacecraft will collect a treasure trove of new information about hundreds of millions of celestial objects. And then you have Punch, made up of 4 satellites that will study the sun and how it creates space weather that can significantly impact us on Earth.
Yeah, all 5 spacecraft are packed inside that payload fairing that you see on top of the Falcon 9 rocket. LSP is keeping a close eye on those spacecraft with the spacecraft customer, and they will be transitioning to spacecraft internal power as we complete about T-minus 5.
Stage 1 RP1 load is complete.
All right, there's a call out for stage 1, RP1 load complete. We still have a little more loading left to go. They have to finish loading liquid oxygen into both stages, and there's about another 4 minutes left of that. But again, you know what we're not tracking?
Spacecraft is on internal power and configured for launch.
Well, that's a good call out there, too. That's Denton Gibson, Dr. Denton Gibson, again, NASA's launch manager, confirming that the spacecraft are on internal power. Can you talk to us a little bit about that, Mick?
Yeah, SPHEREx and Punch on in battery power, getting ready for launch tonight. I'm sure Farah is sitting at the desk just excited for this milestone as the spacecraft are now getting ready for launch later this evening.
And so flying both SPHEREx and Punch on one rocket, I mean, it just saves money. It's a great opportunity.
It's very efficient to be able to take advantage of one rocket and the multiple launch opportunities we can get and get 2 spacecraft with same science into the same orbit.
Yeah.
And
5 minutes,
those
guys,
loud
just
sounds.
about.
We are actually in the factory here in Hawthorne, so you may hear some work happening behind us. And coming up, a couple things are going to be happening back to back. We have the transporter erector, which is also known as the TE or the strong back. It will start retracting away from the vehicle, and that's that large.
Falcon9 tanks are pressurizing for strong back retract.
Strong
Good
back
call out there.
detract.
We're pressurizing in preparation for that strong back retraction. Again, that's that transporter erector, that structure there on your screen right next to the vehicle. It provides propellants and electricity to the rocket until just before launch. And we will first begin to see the clamp arms, which are just below the fairing, begin to open up. Once those clamp arms are fully open, then the TE can retract away from the vehicle.
Strong back retract has started.
There's that call out that it has
Retract
now
has
begun.
started.
And so we will see those clamp arms begin to open there on your screen. It'll be very slow and slight. But once again, once they are fully open, then the TE can recline just about a couple degrees away from the vehicle. And there you can see those clamp arms moving.
NLM, this is LD on Countdown Net.
This is NLM.
The NLM providing the status that the Falcon 9 is healthy and we're tracking no issues heading into launch. Can you provide a final verification status for your team?
NASA, go for launch.
Great, thank you.
Go for launch, guys. 3:40.
Sounds like we are go for launch. And you can see that transporter erector moving away from the vehicle. It'll be just 2 degrees. And then we can start pressurizing the vehicles coming up here shortly. But propellant is still loading on the vehicles. We're coming up on T-minus 3 minutes where liquid oxygen loading on stage 1 will complete here shortly.
Yeah, Jesse, as we said earlier, this is the 3rd flight of this booster for the Falcon 9 rocket. Those brand new payload fairings that will be retrieved by Go Beyond downrange. Inside those fairings, as we just heard from the NLM, everything is go. The spacecraft are on internal power. Both SPHEREx and Punch are healthy, and we are ready to proceed to launch tonight.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
All right, and all that's left now is to finish loading liquid oxygen into the second stage. Again, we're targeting exactly 8, 10, 12 seconds for liftoff here from Vandenberg Space Force Base. Again, a beautiful wide shot right there of the launch pad.
I'm going to go
stay
full
with you
screen
until we
in a minute.
deploy both SPHEREx and Punch in a sun-synchronous orbit around Earth. 2 really cool missions. Again, SPHEREx will deploy first starting at about 40 minutes after launch, and then Punch's 4 spacecraft will deploy about 10 minutes after that in 2 batches. Now, as always, we're hoping for some great live views of all those deployments. Next call out we're expecting, again, in less than 10 seconds, that stage 2 LOX loading is complete.
2 minutes, guys. Thanks, Shaft, by the way, for the gift memberships. Thanks, Anak123, Matthew Bradford, Red Squirrel, thank you. 1:45.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
And there's that call out. Stage 2 liquid oxygen loading is now complete, which means that propellant loading is now complete on Falcon 9. That means 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen are loaded on the vehicle. And gas closeouts are in work now, and you can see some of those white clouds on your screen.
Wow.
That is us venting out the liquid oxygen lines from the transporter erector, and when that cold gas meets that warmer ambient air, it turns into condensation, almost like what you see when you get condensation on a cold glass of water. We're coming up on T-minus 1 minute, where the internal flight computers will take over the launch countdown.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
And there we heard in startup. So next up will be the go from launch director for SpaceX. This means that Falcon 9 will be ready for liftoff. Let's
45
get ready
seconds.
to hear the go from SpaceX launch director for launch tonight.
LD is go for launch.
And there we hear the LD is go for launch, targeting a T0 at 8:10:12.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Range is go and weather is go.
Here we go. Get ready, SPHEREx. 15 seconds.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition.
Wow.
Go SpaceX.
Wow.
SPHEREx, go punch.
SPHEREx and Punch on their way to map
Space
out
propulsion is
our
nominal.
universe like never before and revolutionize
Vehicle
space
pitching down
weather
range.
forecasting.
We are T plus 30 seconds into flight, and we are currently firing all 9 of those M1D engines. And after about 50 seconds, we'll begin throttling down those engines, which slow the vehicle down just slightly in order to prepare.
Power telemetry nominal.
In order to prepare for passing through max Q, and that is maximum aerodynamic pressure. That's the largest structural load that the vehicle will see during ascent, so slowing the vehicle down.
Vehicle supersonic.
Slowing the vehicle down will reduce some of the loads that it experiences through max Q. That's coming up here in a few seconds.
Max Q.
Right on time. And now we have a few events that are coming up in quick succession, so we want to lay them out for you really quick. It's going to start with main engine cutoff. That's MECO, and that's when SpaceX shuts down all of its 9 engines on its first stage, which we are getting a great view down the pipe right there. Shortly after that, Stage 1 and 2 will separate from each other, and then seconds later, the first stage will flip back towards Earth, while the second stage will continue on, igniting its MVAC engine. Now that call out is Second Engine Start 1, or SE1, and this burn will last about 6 minutes. After that, the boost back burn on the first stage to put it back on a trajectory towards landing zone 4, which again is back here at Vandenberg, just about 1,400 feet from where Falcon launched from in the first place. Wow, look at that shot. All Merlin engines firing right there, and we have such a great live shot of it.
Main engine cut off.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC ignition.
Wow.
Stage 1 boost back startup. Coming up next, we will see fairing deploy, and that's when the two fairing halves will separate and expose SPHEREx and Punch to the atmosphere of space. SpaceX will attempt, they will actually retrieve those fairings back downrange on Go Beyond once they get back to Earth.
Going to see the
fairing separation confirmed.
Look at that! Wow!
Fairing deployment confirmed, and what you see on the screen is the fairings separating and showing SPHEREx and Punch on their way to space.
That was the cover for SPHEREx and the satellites.
Stage 1 boost back shutdown.
There you see on your screen and heard that call out that the boost back burn is concluding on the first stage vehicle. That's the first of 3 burns that it needs to make its way back down to Earth. This is the 3rd flight for today's first stage, which previously supported 2 other launches, NROL 126 in November of 2024 and Transporter 12 just in January of this year. And you may have noticed some soot on the vehicle prior to launch. During the entry burn, which is coming up here in a couple minutes, Falcon 9 is decelerating by reigniting 3 of the 9 Merlin M1D engines. Now, this causes the vehicle to fly through Merlin's exhaust gases, or the plume, which deposits a layer of soot on the vehicle's surface, and that soot comes from the carbon-based fuel that Falcon 9 uses. With each flight, the soot builds up just a little bit more on the outside of the vehicle, giving Falcon 9 its distinctive reused look.
We're just so lucky to have these great views. Again, we have a split screen here. On the left side is the first stage, and you see those grid fins. They're guiding that first stage back to a trajectory here at Vandenberg Space Force Base. And then on the the right-hand side on your screen, you have the second stage, and you see that MVAC engine is still burning there. Mick, LSP just works really closely with SpaceX to be able to fly reused rockets for NASA missions.
Yeah, Megan, at LSP, we look at all the requirements for all the missions that we have. And as I said earlier, we selected SpaceX for the SPHEREx and Punch mission. And looking at all those requirements, we ensure that even previously flown launch vehicles will meet those requirements, providing NASA with a dependable and a cost-effective ride to space for this, our first rideshare mission.
Yeah, if you're just joining us, hello, we're in your bottom corner right there. I'm NASA's Megan Cruz, and with me is Mick Woltman with NASA, and also Jesse Anderson, a senior production manager at SpaceX. Now, Mick is with NASA's Launch Services Program, which is managing today's launch, so he's going to have a lot of interesting things to say to us to walk us through what we're seeing today. And, of course, we have Jesse from SpaceX. Really great ride so far. We're so lucky to have you guys. LSP chose SpaceX to deliver SPHEREx and Punch to what's called a sun-synchronous orbit, 650 kilometers above the Earth. And SPHEREx is going to help answer some of the biggest astrophysical questions out there, like how do galaxies form and evolve, how water and other key ingredients for life came to be. And then Punch is made up of 4 satellites that will study the sun and see how it creates space weather that can significantly impact us on Earth. I mean, Mick, we're talking about issues with GPS or satellites, things like that.
Yeah, it's
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And there we heard the call for the first stage entry burn startup, looking for entry shutdown here in just a few seconds and getting ready for landing burn in just about a minute.
First stage on the left. They said that's been used 3
Stage
times.
1
This is the
entry burn
3rd time it's
shutdown.
been used.
There we have Jesse, confirmed engine shutdown for the entry burn. But back to what you were saying, Megan, about the science of the mission. I know Farah is sitting there looking. We are so happy that we got liftoff tonight. But the most important thing about these 2 missions is exactly what you were talking about. Once we get them deployed, the science that they will have to be able to help us here on Earth with some of the things we want. The spectral map of the universe will be incredible. And that solar wind and solar...
Stage 1 FTS has saved.
Flight termination system has been saved.
Stage
That's
1
really good news.
transonic.
And it sounds like stage 1 is on its way back. So that science is very important to us here on Earth. So we're looking forward to getting these deployed this evening.
We do have the landing burn coming up here in a few seconds. That'll be a single engine burn and the last burn that the vehicle needs to land.
Stage 1 landing burn.
There's that call out. Landing burn has begun. Let's watch as Falcon 9 touches down on landing zone 4E.
Wow. And there you go.
Stage 1 landing light deploy.
Sonic boom, I think we heard. Look at this. There you go.
And such an awesome view of Falcon 9 touching down
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
on landing zone 4E, confirming the third landing for this booster.
We had applause here on the factory room floor. It's a fun
Crazy.
place to see. You know, it would have been cool to see it at Vandenberg, but this was pretty cool too.
Yeah, I was going to say I love the launches, but you know what? I love the way SpaceX makes landing look easy too.
Yes, that's safe.
It's still one of my favorite parts, as many times as we've seen it.
And right there on the screen, we lost the signal for a second, but basically we're keeping an eye on the second stage's first burn. That's continuing, and that burn's going to last until just after T plus 8 minutes. And then it will shut down. There will be a coast phase, and then we will relight a second time.
Is there a problem with stage 2, or are they just losing the signal?
All right, so again, first burn out of the way. We will see a second burn later. That's going to happen around T plus 39 minutes. We hope that you stay with us to see the deployment of both SPHEREx and Punch. But for now, we're going to send it back to Raquel and Farah, because I know Farah is probably cheering right now.
Yes, absolutely.
You are correct. Absolutely. If you're just joining us, I'm NASA's Raquel Villanueva, joined by Farah Alabay, bringing you live launch coverage from Vandenberg Space Force Base along the central coast of California. And just over 9 minutes ago at 8:10 p.m. Pacific time, we watched as a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket lifted off. And Farah, I think that is the happiest you've ever been, and I've known you for years.
Yeah, our viewers, we're not seeing data come in from stage 2. I don't know if that's normal. They don't seem concerned, but the stage 2 data isn't changing, and they lost video of it too. So they don't seem concerned.
Entire building we were in right now. How does it feel now to have it off the ground?
We still have, a good 30 minutes to go before we separate, so we still have to hold on for that. But it feels really great to have SPHEREx in space. We saw a peek at the photon shields when the fairing separated, and I saw she was all in one piece. So we're good to go.
Fantastic. The rocket is flying two important missions today. One is your SPHEREx, a space telescope that will create the most colorful 3D map of the cosmos ever, and Punch, 4 small satellites that will study how the sun's outer atmosphere turns into the solar wind that fills our solar system. So I have a little pop quiz for you, Farah. Do you know what each of those missions stand for? Let's start with yours.
SPHEREx is the spectrophotometer for the history of the universe, epoch of reionization, and ISIS. Oh my gosh, I'm ISIS Explorer.
Got it, yes. It was a close one, but you got it. And now how about Punch?
It's the polarimeter to unify the corona and the heliosphere. That one's easy.
Well, great. That was an A+ for you there. Before its journey in space, SPHEREx had to go comprehensive testing. Farah was there for the whole process and will give us a behind-the-scenes look.
Okay, I have to cut out while the music's playing. So they didn't seem concerned, so I'm assuming everything's going fine. So we saw the launch. We saw during the launch the fairings come off the top, which exposes the SPHEREx telescope and the Punch satellites, which is for the other mission. And at what point, I'm checking here, on the website for SpaceX, it says SPHEREx deploys happens about 42 minutes into the launch, 41:56. So we have a little while before it deploys. I guess that's the next big. There's 39:28 second stage engine starts, 40:10. Second stage engine cutoff, 41:56 SPHEREx deploys. Again, it's incredible that first stage of the rocket that came back down and landed, that is the third time they have used that stage. Incredible. She-Bear says, just saw it go over our house in Fresno. Some of our viewers said they were going to be watching it from wherever they were. When I used to live in Florida, I used to be able to see some of the launches. Newhaw says save tons of money. All right, see, I'll get you the sound back as soon as the music ends. But they're still playing music, I think. Let's see.
That the spacecraft is going to
no,
see
they're
in
not.
space. The first facility.
They're still playing music. Sorry. So, Dean R says, as many as I've seen here in Florida, it's still awesome every time. Ken Mulrooney says, watched it outside plus totally something. Totally. I'm not going to read that last part. Evelyn says that some boosters have been used 21 times. Is that true? 417 Keith says next launch has 22 flights. You mean the booster? But so far, so good. All right, we are waiting for them to come back from this video presentation. Oh, one of our viewers said, did SpaceX scrub the other launch tonight for the Starlink satellites? SpaceX says, did they? I haven't seen anything about that. I don't see any announcement from SpaceX about that. One of our viewers claimed that they had scrubbed their other launch for tonight. I haven't seen that yet. Maybe they did. It's not on their X account yet. I don't see it anywhere. Jeffrey Clark says they did. Why didn't they announce it? Why isn't it on their X? Why isn't it on their X account? I actually should have video of the other launch if they do it. You know that?
Including the Eaton fire that burned dangerously close to JPL. And Farah, hundreds of employees were impacted.
Yes, including members of our very own SPHEREx team. Some were forced to evacuate, and unfortunately, others lost their homes. And it all happened right as we were preparing to ship the SPHEREx Observatory from Boulder, Colorado to Vandenberg Space Force Base. Many of us were right in the middle of final shipment preparations when evacuation orders started rolling in. We even had to change our transport route to avoid fires, heavy smoke, and road closures, something none of us had ever expected to have to plan for.
And throughout the firefighting effort, JPL provided water resources and a helicopter landing area for firefighters. First responders and our community went above and beyond, helping those in need and working tirelessly to protect JPL and nearby homes. And we would like to thank them for their courage, dedication, and support.
Yeah, I think this is exactly the time when our community really shines, and we're so thankful for them.
Absolutely. And someone else we'd like to thank today is the director of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Lori Leshin, and she joins us now. Lori, it is so great to have you here.
Go SPHEREx! It's so exciting, and thank you for that wonderful opening about our first responders and our whole brave community. It's really special.
Absolutely. And Lori, this launch is a true bright spot for JPL's family. How are you feeling after watching that launch?
You know what? It's such the culmination of the hard work of so many people over many, many years. And even up towards the end, we have had quite a launch campaign here with lots of stops and starts. And when you're outside and are able to see that rocket go up, and this one, it flew right through Orion's belt. Oh, gorgeous. It just makes it all worth it.
Yeah, you could feel the rumble here too.
Oh my gosh.
And SPHEREx is a great example of a smaller, more focused mission with incredibly ambitious goals. How do missions like these fit into the bigger picture of what JPL does?
Well, at JPL, we're really all about cutting edge science, no matter what size the spacecraft it is, right? We do big science with big missions like Europa Clipper and the Perseverance rover, but and SPHEREx is an example of doing really big science in a somewhat smaller mission. And so it's just great to see when there's the right kind of science question, we build the mission to answer it.
And SPHEREx is also a collaboration between multiple partners. Can you explain to us how that led to the mission success and maybe how that might influence future collaborations?
Absolutely. I always say, cosmic teamwork makes the dream work here, right? So collaboration is key to everything we do, whether it's with universities across the country and around the world, like we've done on SPHEREx. We have international partner Korea involved in the SPHEREx mission, and of course our industry partner at BAE Systems and the PI at Caltech. So it really is taking the best from lots of different organizations, and that's why our motto is Dare Mighty Things Together, because everything we do is about the team.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Lori. We appreciate you having you here with us. You know, launch is really just the beginning for the SPHEREx team. Right now, mission control is kicking into high gear at JPL. For a sneak peek at what's happening behind the scenes, I caught up with the project manager and flight director for SPHEREx. Can you describe why this space is so...
Hey, by the way, so I did check the SpaceX launch video for the Starlink satellites launch, and it now says that launch broadcast is starting tomorrow at 10:14 p.m. So while I didn't see it, that date suggests that they scrubbed their... yes, I can confirm that. I'm now seeing it online as well, reports of it. So the Starlink launch is not happening tonight. But tomorrow, actually, SpaceX is supposed to launch the next crew to the International Space Station, which will allow the two astronauts who've been up there for months. I forget how long it's been they've been up there. It's been months. Has it been close to a year? And it's not sure exactly when, but a few days at Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams, a few days after the new mission gets there, they're supposed to come home. 9 months. People are saying 9 months. 9 months in space, yes. 9 months. TJ Adams said 8 days turned into 9 months. So we'll cover, I would like to cover when they come home. I don't think I'm going to cover the launch, the launch of the craft of the Crew 10 mission tomorrow, but I will cover when they're coming home. There's no exact date for that yet, but it's supposed to be a few days after the new craft launches. Hold on a second here. I'll get
some lucky peanuts here with us, and I have seen Forrest snack on them all the way here.
Definitely, we need a little bit more of that good luck for separation coming up.
I'll take us through separation. And now let's send it back to Jesse Anderson in Hawthorne with a look at SpaceX's history of supporting the next generation of space exploration with NASA.
Is this another music thing? No.
It's incredible having the opportunity to support NASA science missions to space, just like today's mission. In fact, last month was the 10th anniversary of the very first mission Falcon 9 and SpaceX launched for NASA, the Discover Space Weather mission, which launched in February of 2015, which you can see there on your screen. Since first taking flight in 2010, Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy have completed more than 450 launches and more than 380 reflights. As the first orbital class rocket capable of reflight, Falcon 9 has helped drive down launch costs while increasing flight cadence, making space more accessible for all types of missions. Falcon is helping NASA build our future in space through contracts like the Commercial Lunar Payload Services Initiative and agreements like the one behind today's mission, the NASA Launch Services 2 contract. SpaceX is enabling access to space at a cost and cadence that no other vehicle flying today can match, unlocking a wide array of new government, commercial, and scientific opportunities in space. Before Falcon 9, launching to space was infrequent and cost much more than it does today. Lowering the cost of access to space is the foundation for humanity's next steps into the solar system. More launches accelerate development, enabling more small satellite and private research customers to launch their work to space, which in turn helps stimulate the wider space economy here on Earth. And serving both cargo and human spaceflight missions, Dragon has visited the International Space Station 45 times. In addition to NASA's crew missions, Falcon 9 and Dragon are advancing human spaceflight through private astronaut missions as well, including the Axiom missions Inspiration 4, Polaris Dawn, and our upcoming From 2 mission. And missions like SpaceX's Transporter and Bandwagon rideshare programs help make access to space even more affordable by sharing the cost of a single launch across multiple customers. All of this to say, reusability is the key innovation that is making space more accessible. Now, we are T plus 23 minutes into today's mission, and in a few minutes, in about 15 minutes or so, we will be reigniting that second stage to continue the journey with SPHEREx and Punch. We'll send it back to Raquel.
Thank you, Jesse. Punch, along with students from the University of Colorado Boulder, are bringing ancient solar observations to life. Their project, Solar Stones, transforms historic petroglyphs into art. Let's take a look at how it's...
All right, while they're doing this, I want to talk a little bit about, we're waiting for SPHEREx to deploy, which happens in about, what is that? The time when SPHEREx is going to deploy in about 16 minutes or so, I think. 15, 16 minutes, I think. Anyways, I want to talk to you about, real quick about Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams. So, again, it's scheduled, SpaceX is set to launch the next mission of astronauts to the space station, International Space Station, tomorrow. According to AP, the two crews, the new crew and the current crew, will spend about a week together aboard the space station before Wilmore and Williams depart with NASA's Nick Hague and Russian Space Agency's Alexander Gorbunov. So they'll be up there for about a week together, and then, according to this article, and then they will come back. And the background is... according, this is from the AP article, Wilmore and Williams were expected to be gone just a week or so when they launched last June aboard Boeing's new Starliner capsule, making its crew debut after years of delay. The Starliner had so many problems getting to the space station that NASA ruled it was too dangerous to carry anyone, and it flew back empty. Their homecoming was further delayed by extra completion time needed for the brand new SpaceX capsule that was supposed to deliver their replacements. Last month, NASA announced that the next crew would launch in a used space capsule instead, bringing liftoff up to tomorrow. Yeah, as Chris N says, I believe we watched that Boeing Starliner take off. So, yeah, you know, when that happens, like in a week or so, that would be great to cover that. All right, I think we got about 14, 15 minutes until SPHEREx deploys. I think the stream is probably going to go to around then.
And I see you brought some examples with you today.
I did indeed. So Punch is studying the sun, astrophysics at home, right around us. And in that, we're carrying on a tradition that goes all the way back to the ancients. So this is a 3D printed representation of what may be the oldest representation of the solar corona in a durable medium. This was recorded life-size, it's this large. Somebody about 1,000 years ago chipped this into the rock right near what is now the Visitor Center at Chaco Canyon. And this is consistent with, and many believe it to be, a representation of the solar eclipse of 1097, which occurred over Chaco Canyon. People actually witnessed it and observed the corona around us. So that ties us from the ancients to the modern esoterica of spaceflight.
And why was it important for Chaco Canyon to be the location for the Punch mission Solar Stones?
So we organized our outreach program around ancient and modern sun watching, and Chaco was a large center of culture about 1,000 years ago. The folks who lived here at that time had a long history of science, the technology that they had in hand, and of observing the sun around them to predict their environment and their future in much the same way that we do today. Though, of course, they were looking for things like agricultural planting times and things like that. But that thread of human curiosity looking at the environment around us extends all the way to what we do at NASA today.
So speaking of what we do at NASA today, so Punch has a coronagraph that sort of mimics a solar eclipse, right? And that allows us to study the corona. Can you explain how that works?
Certainly. So normally we can't see the sun's corona or the much fainter solar wind that Punch will image. And the reason for that is the sky is too bright. The sun is very bright in the sky is very bright. We normally can't see the corona unless the moon blocks the sun out. When we're standing in the shadow of the moon, we can see around the planetoid to see the solar corona extending out into space. But that doesn't stop. That extends all the way out and washes over the Earth. So Punch is in space. We can, instead of the moon, apply a very carefully crafted piece of metal to cast a shadow on our camera and allow us to see the corona 24/7 around the clock.
Wow. And, we really appreciate your expertise. We have some Punch questions coming in for viewers. Do you mind if we answer a few right now?
Let's do it.
All right, let's see what we have here. We have Rosanelle Acosta on YouTube wants to know, how does the satellite improve our ability to predict phenomena such as solar storms and their impact on Earth?
So Punch will allow us to forecast space weather much better than we can now. Right now, we look at the space near the sun, the corona, and observe storms forming and leaving the sun. They streak out across the solar system at 1 million miles an hour or more. And then we extrapolate all the way across the void to our planet. We don't have a way of measuring them in transit. So with Punch, we'll be able to track them in 3D as they make the entire journey to the Earth. So that's very similar to what we see if you saw the weather report earlier. We always look at those geosynchronous images of the Earth to track weather storms as they cross the face of the planet. We hope to do the same type of thing for space weather forecasting, where we can track the storms rather than just taking samples here and there.
Well, Farah loves weather forecasting now, so she'll be tuning in for that. Kelly on Instagram wants to know, why is Punch a constellation of satellites?
So Punch is a constellation because we want to look out from the sun in all directions, up to 45 degrees from the star. That's a 90-degree field of view. It would go from the horizon to the zenith. We had to get our spacecraft close to the ground stations because we wanted to radio a lot of data back to the Earth. That meant there was an enormous planet in the way. So we had to make the instrument as large as the planet to look out in all directions. The only way to do that was to mount it on 4 spacecraft.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, Craig, thank you so much for your expertise. We really appreciate it. And we will be taking more questions later on the broadcast, so keep them coming using the hashtag AskNASA. And as we approach SPHEREx spacecraft separation, Farah, let's check back in with Megan, Mick, and Jesse.
All right.
Welcome back to SpaceX in Hawthorne, California. Megan, Mick, and I are just outside of Mission Control, where teams continue to monitor Falcon 9's second stage.
And we have a view here that we're looking at, and we're seeing that stage 2 is currently coasting near Antarctica right now. So where it needs to be, we are loving the trajectory and seeing the data that we're getting back.
There you go.
The Falcon 9 lifted off of Vandenberg Space Force Base about 31 minutes ago. It's carrying 2 NASA science missions, SPHEREx and Punch, and both are headed to a sun-synchronous orbit around 650 kilometers above the Earth.
Yeah, and what does that mean for us? That means that we will be passing over the same part of the Earth at roughly the same local solar time each day. That means that the lighting conditions are consistent for observations, which is important to SPHEREx and Punch. For SPHEREx, that provides a consistent illumination condition, reducing background noise from the varying sun angles. And for Punch, it keeps them in a fixed sun-Earth viewing geometry, crucial for tracking the solar wind's continuous evolution. In short, this orbit allows both missions to maximize their scientific observations with minimal interference from the Earth's shadow.
Yeah, basically, SPHERex likes the sun and Punch does not like the sun. So they're really riding that. So they're really riding that day-night line, and it's just perfect. You know, that's why again we're flying these two missions together. So again, we're going to gather some really great science. SPHERex is going to map our entire universe to gather data on billions of stars and galaxies, and then Punch is going to study our sun to really better forecast space weather and how it affects us.
Yeah, and the second stage with SPHERex and Punch will coast for another about 7 more minutes before we have another ignition of the MVAC engine. And then following that, we will deploy SPHERex first and then Punch's 4 spacecraft. As always, we're planning to have live views of each of those deployments starting at T plus 40 minutes.
Yes, we can't wait. So we'll see you back here soon. For now, let's send it back to the hostess at Vandenberg Space Force Base with Raquel and Farah.
Thank you so much. Turning our attention back to SPHERex, the Space Telescope is gearing up to map the entire sky like never before. With special photon shields and an ultra-cool design, here's how it will spot hidden cosmic secrets in infrared light.
Probably music, and I'm going to... All right, so basically in 7 minutes, as I understand it, in 7 minutes or so, what's the SPHERex telescope and the Punch? Am I getting that right? I feel like I'm messing that up. And the satellites that are part of the other mission, whose name I forgot already, that they are still with the second stage of the rocket, and they need to separate from the rocket. I don't even remember. Was it Punch? I don't even remember what. This is a SPHERex stream. I haven't been paying attention to the other one. Somebody will say it in the chat. But anyways. The satellites that are studying the sun. But they're all still with the second stage of the rocket. So in about 6 minutes, they're going to start the separation where they actually deploy these things. And I guess we're going to have video of the SPHERex telescope separating and deploying, and also the satellites. So that's neat. That sounds cool to see. And that, again, I think that's going to be basically where they go to in this stream. So hopefully that works. So we'll see that very soon. Yes, SPHERex and Punch. Those are the two missions. Cool. Now, if you look, because if you look at the schedule, I was just looking at the SpaceX site, and the SpaceX site gives the times. And it says here, oops, hold on, I'm on the wrong one. We want to go. Did they take it? Did they move it from their website because it happened already? Now I'm having an issue finding that page. Oh, launches. I'm on the launch SPHERex mission. It says yes. 39:28 second stage engine starts. 40:10 second stage engine cutoff, and 41:56 SPHERex deploys.
Process. Thanks for being here, Phil.
Yeah, thanks. So exciting. So indeed, yes, SPHERex uses a totally passive cooling process. That means we have no refrigerators, we have no liquid cryogens or anything like that, and we use actually the coldness of deep, dark space to bring the temperature of our instrument down. And to show you how that works, we made a little demo here. This is a little thermal model of SPHERex, and you can see it's got its 3, iconic photon shields. And then inside there, you can see that we've got a model of the telescope and the focal plane radiator. So back in Pasadena, we took this thing to do a little demonstration to show you how that might work. So we put it up on the roof of the Cahill Building for Astrophysics, which is actually the building that we assembled the SPHERex instrument in. And we put it up there with a great view of the night sky. So there's thermal engineer Brad Moore and I getting everything's set up. And the point is that using that night sky, even here on Earth, we can cool it down. So here in this time lapse, as we left it out there overnight, you can see why this is harder on the Earth. Those clouds up there, the atmosphere is actually pretty dark in the infrared. Not to mention that air makes conductive heating between the Earth and the radiator. You can see also there we left a camera in the foreground. That's actually an infrared camera, so you can see what's happening with the heat glowing off of the telescope inside. So you can see here, as we look in the infrared, there's a lot of light coming off of that telescope because it's warm. And as the time lapse goes on, you see that light coming down, that glow that's coming off the infrared as it dumps out to deep space. If you look to the outside of this, there's a glow around the photon shields, and that's from the Earth coming up. And so inside, it looks dark because it's reflecting the cold sky from the photon shields. And as we go on, you can see that light comes down, and our telescope is getting cooler. So the next morning, we come in and see what happened to our experiment. There's Brad and I coming in. You can see the glow from our hot coffee. This is an infrared video, so you see all the light that's actually glowing off of us at room temperature. Here we are looking in there to see what we found, and that's what it looks like. That radiator was nice and frosty. You can see when I swipe my finger across it, there's all that dew on there, and that's because we cool down using passive cooling below the dew point, and we condensed water, and we made a little frost on the outside, and we did some passive cooling on Earth.
Well, Phil, that's actually what my car looked like this morning with the windshield wipers filled with dew.
That's right, and that's actually passive cooling. And I bet you, if you looked at where your car was parked, it's actually had a great view of the sky. And if you maybe parked under, like a garage lid or a tree or something, you wouldn't have that because it didn't get to passively cool.
And so SPHERex is going to use that passive cooling to detect those super faint galaxies, right?
That's right, yeah. And so as you saw in that video, which was in infrared, warm things are actually glowing like crazy. So we're trying to detect, light that comes from tiny blips of these galaxies all the way across on the other side of the universe. So in order to get there, we have to cool down the foreground because all that light
about
is
to
just
restart the
swamping us,
engine.
and we've got to get the light from the telescope glowing down so we can see those tiny blips across the universe.
Right. Well, Phil, thank you so much for joining us. Now let's head back to the team in Hawthorne, California for a status update.
Restart the engine. That's what they're doing now, I think.
All right, we're now 39 minutes into the mission, and coming up is what's called SES-2, and that's when SpaceX will reignite its second stage engine, which you see right on your screen there.
All right.
Yeah, we are expecting that SES-2, this is the second burn for this mission to ignite. There it is, right on time. You can see that there on your screen. Now this is about a 50-second burn for this burn. And this extra burn, this is a single Merlin vacuum engine, has about 220,500 pounds of thrust. And burning just for about 50 seconds doesn't seem like much, but it's just enough to take the second stage with the payloads attached to its targeted drop-off orbit.
That's exactly right, Jesse. This burn will put SPHERex and Punch exactly where we need to be, getting ready for SPHERex deployment. An exciting time. I know Farah is looking forward to that one. So are we, but things continue to look good.
And there you can see on your screen that the MVAC engine is now shutting down.
Nominal.
SPHERex is going to deploy soon.
And the second burn is actually a lot earlier than in other missions because, again, SPHERex has to avoid the sun even on its way up to that sun synchronous orbit.
Yeah, as Mark Hammonds mentioned earlier, the earlier second burn is a planned burn to ensure that SPHERex maintains that sun avoidance while achieving its intended orbit, and we heard nominal insertion there. This timing helps prevent the exposure to excessive solar radiation, keeps our thermal conditions that we just heard about within our limits, and ensures that proper instrumentation performance on the spacecraft getting ready for this trajectory and separation.
And we did have a confirmation of second engine cutoff as well as good orbital insertion, as Mick called out there. And we are coming up in a few minutes. We will have, actually in about 30 seconds, we will have payload deploy of SPHERex. We've got some great
SPHERex
live
about
views
to
there
deploy.
on your screen. Earth looks amazing there.
That is a really great view. And we're glad to have it. Again, we're expecting that deploy at 41:56, about there. SPHERex was designed to operate for at least 2 years, but the team says if all goes well, it could operate much longer.
Expecting deployment here in just a few seconds.
SPHERex separation confirmed.
Whoa!
And there we heard the call out, and now you can see that there on your screen. SPHERex is drifting away from Falcon 9's second
There it
stage,
is.
confirming deployment.
Wow.
Woohoo! It took everything in me not to talk over you and go, yay!
So exciting.
Are you kidding? Farah is at the hostess right now, jumping up and down.
Here it goes.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, great live views. It's always nice to see. And again, this is a great opportunity for the spacecraft team to see it
Very
happen
cool.
in real time. So now the spacecraft has a 3-minute pass over a ground station in Antarctica. You might have heard it mentioned a couple of times in the broadcast. Troll is
Look
what
at
that
that.
ground station is called.
Wow.
And the team hopes to confirm an initial signal with the spacecraft.
Yeah, that initial signal will primarily be gathering engineering data for its health and status at this time. And once they confirm that and that it's ready to be operational, SPHERex will then transition into its science phase, starting with calibration and test observations over the next few days or weeks that Farah had mentioned, and another pass over another ground station in Norway at about T plus 80 minutes. So about 40 minutes from now, they will start working on that and confirm that everything looks great on SPHERex. So we're just waiting to hear that initial engineering data check from on AOS for SPHERex, where they start receiving that engineering data just to make sure everything is good there at Troll.
Those iconic cones around the spacecraft, again, you can still make it out as it gets farther and farther from the second stage. But actually, let's take a look inside the Mission Directors Center. So that is one of the rooms that we have at Vandenberg Space Force Base. And sitting inside there, we have NASA personnel, but we also have SPHERex and Punch personnel. Actually, if you look at the front row of your screen, directly to the right of the aisle, that is Jamie Bach, and he's the principal investigator for SPHERex. I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to be looking at him for a reaction.
I don't know. I'm going to be looking at that whole room. I think they're going to be just as excited as
he
everybody.
waved. I think he heard us. You're watching. We're watching him. He's watching us.
Yeah, we're waiting for that initial AOS for that engineering checkout, and that team in the Mission Director Center there at 836 at Vandenberg Space Force Base,
Wow, look at that picture.
I know is excited to see this deployment also.
Yeah, and he's in that first row. He's joined by some more spacecraft team members, as well as from some leadership at JPL. So really glad to just see the whole team there, waiting for again this important milestone. Again, we have this 3-minute pass with this ground station. So anywhere in this time, if we're able to get a hi, hello, quick acquisition of signal, that would be a great sign for the team. And then those subsequent passes over different ground stations, again, Norway as well as Alaska, Fairbanks, Alaska, will give them an opportunity to get even more information and more data from the spacecraft.
Beautiful views from second stage there. Second stage performed very well tonight. Still continuing its mission with that second burn. We still have Punch on board, and things looking great there as second stage continues to coast.
Yeah,
They're going to deploy the Punch satellite.
Favorite things about launch is really the views from space that you don't get to see from down here, but we get to see it from the spacecraft out in space during these missions. And these were some incredible views tonight.
Yeah, it really puts into perspective, what we're doing here. We are sending spacecraft that do incredible science out into an orbit around the Earth, and all the data that's collected. This is science that touches all different kinds of disciplines. Specifically for SPHERex, right? It's again just being able to see and map our universe in a way that we've never done it before. It's going to really answer some of astrophysics' biggest questions. And then for Punch, studying our sun and understanding how it can affect us.
Waiting to
terms
get a
of space
signal
weather,
from the telescope, they said.
comms going down, telecommunications, satellites, things like that, all affected by space weather. So Punch is really going to help us understand how to better predict when space weather might affect us.
The satellites are supposed to deploy in like 5
And
minutes.
it looked like we did lose acquisition of signal from the second stage, but the mission isn't over yet. Falcon 9 second stage is still carrying NASA's Punch mission, 4 satellites that will study our sun's corona. And those will start deploying around 52 minutes after launch. So be sure to stick around for that just a few minutes from now.
Okay. So we'll see that. We'll see the satellites
So
deploy.
much, Megan, Mick, and Jesse. And Farah, what is next for SPHEREx?
So, of course, we would have liked to hear it from it right now, but this, it's a very short pass, as you heard, and the SPHEREx is continuing to orbit around the Earth. It's getting itself into the right configuration. It's going to go over another ground station called Svalbard up in Norway in about 40 minutes, so we'll hopefully hear from it then. And so we'll be anxiously waiting to hear from her and to tell us that she's doing well in space.
Well, thank you so much for that update, Farah. And joining us now is project scientist Olivier Doré. Olivier, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
So Olivier, tell us, SPHEREx is taking a 3D map of the universe, right? How and why is it doing that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thanks, Farah.
I'm going to turn this down. So what my understanding of what happened is, my amateur understanding is, they were hoping to hear something from the telescope after it deployed. There was a certain, I think about 3 minutes or so, where it was going over a certain part of the Earth where they were hoping to hear from it. And then they didn't hear from it. So now they say there's like 40 minutes from now, it's going to pass over another area. But clearly they were hoping to hear from it and they didn't. Now, I don't know how big a deal that is, but you could tell that that was something they were hoping. Again, I hope nothing's wrong, but they haven't heard from it yet.
So we will do that by really mapping the whole sky in 102 colors.
We're going to see the satellites for the Punch mission deploy in a couple of minutes.
Take a picture, you will see
That's concerning.
Where stars and galaxies are. But if you want to know how far they are from you, if you really want to measure the third dimension, you need to use a color information. By using colors, you can really tell how far
Now,
the galaxy is from.
I will say Spaceflight Now said that teams have 3 opportunities to acquire the signal. And the first week just happened and they didn't acquire the signal.
How does SPHEREx use color when mapping?
Right. So.
Yeah, he's not talking about that now. He's just talking about the SPHEREx, the telescope. HM Doppelganger says, no need to panic, trust the process. Yeah, this is live. And again, the next chance they have to acquire the signal is like in about, they said 40 minutes, a couple minutes ago.
And so you could say that SPHEREx will use some kind of astronomical grade rainbow glasses that we put in front of our detectors. And so it means that
Colleen Taipon says, I don't think we should panic. I mean, they did seem to be concerned, you know?
Careful sequence of pictures of exposure.
But I don't know how big a deal is that it didn't make contact on that first pass. I have no idea.
Great. Thank you so much for your insight, Olivier.
My pleasure.
Right,
so we are actually now heading back to Hawthorne, California for an update.
Nice picture.
Thanks, Raquel. We are just about a minute away from SPHEREx coming up here. We're T plus 51 minutes into NASA's SPHEREx and Punch missions from Vandenberg Space Force Base. About 9 minutes ago, we watched SPHEREx separate from the Falcon 9 second stage, and the SPHEREx team then confirmed, and we did not confirm acquisition of signal just yet. We will confirm that at the next opportunity.
But now it's
Hopefully.
Punch's turn.
Yeah.
So they're going to
Hopefully.
deploy in 2 batches, right? So the first 2 are going to deploy around T plus 52
Wow.
minutes and 16 seconds. So that's about 45 seconds from now. And then the other at T plus 53:07. Again, some great views that we're seeing here from the second stage, looking down on Earth, carrying 4 Punch spacecraft.
And as you talked about those 4 Punch spacecraft deploying in 2 sets, one of the reasons we are doing that is to separate the sets so that we can get them started on their way and make sure they're heading in the right directions and avoid the second stage and anything else that might be in the path. So keeping Punch to make sure everything is successful. Deploy 1 set and deploy a second set a few seconds later. That will help everything with deployment tonight and call this mission to an end, getting Punch on its way for its science.
2, separation confirmed.
That's one right there, right?
Wow,
Was that one of them? It just flew by.
And we heard that call out, and
That is amazing. Yeah.
Punch drifting away from the Falcon 9 second stage. That is the first of 2 payload deployments, and we are expecting the next one coming up in just about 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, I'll tell
Watch for
you,
the next
seeing
one.
that,
Wow.
that was just as incredible as seeing SPHEREx separate those 2 satellites separating, and then the next 2 coming up, getting that constellation out there so Punch can do their science. That's very important, and I know the Punch team is looking forward to that.
Yeah, and we are deploying these in a bit of a different orientation from SPHEREx. We did see SPHEREx drift away very slowly from the second stage.
Wow.
And these Punch payloads are going in a different direction. So
very cool.
Wi-Fi 1 and 3, separation confirmed.
Look at that. That is amazing. That is just
incredible.
amazing.
Yeah, the second batch right there. It is really cool to see. And again, I just know that the spacecraft teams really appreciate this opportunity to see this happen in real time. So what an incredible, incredible view. All right, so the Punch team is going to have to wait a bit longer to confirm their acquisition of signal for both sets of spacecraft. Mick, can you talk to us about when they expect to be able to confirm signals?
Yeah, the Punch team will have to wait about 30 minutes, Megan, to acquire signal from one of the spacecraft. Now that we have separated them successfully and things look great, this will help to confirm the signal for all 4. Or they'll hope to confirm the signal to all 4 satellites within an hour after separation today. So a little bit more time for the Punch team to verify everything is good, but it was awesome to see separation tonight and Punch on its way.
Yeah, it's again important to mention that, again, 4 separate spacecraft. We will have to acquire signal with each of those spacecraft. But again, they're hoping to acquire signal with all of those four spacecraft. That's a tongue twister. 4 spacecraft within an hour from now, which is when we just separated. So we will not be able to cover that live for you guys, but we will be updating our social media. And you can also check out blogs.nasa.gov/punch.
Yeah, and these views have been so incredible. It has been such an exciting mission so far. And this really is just the beginning of the journey for SPHEREx and for Punch. I know we've been live for about 55 minutes with this mission, but this is the beginning of the journey, of a very long journey for both missions.
Both spacecraft doing some great science, as we've heard throughout the show, with the mapping of our universe and the solar wind studies and all. And I got to tell you, looking at the shots on the screen, I'm kind of thankful to Farah and the team for the sun avoidance requirement, because we are seeing some great views of Earth from our second stage here, and as we have deployed these satellites. It's just amazing to see these live views from space, as you mentioned earlier, Jesse.
Yeah, and like you just mentioned, sometimes we get a lot of sun glare into the camera on the second stage vehicle, but because we are avoiding the sun, just like you said, we have some epic views of Earth there. They look so clear. It's incredible. What am I trying to say? Like the pixels that we can get from being so far away from Earth. It is just incredible.
Yeah. And again, if you're just joining us, you're listening to me, Megan Cruz, and this is Jesse from SpaceX, who was just chatting, and then the only guy on here, so you know when he's talking, that's Mick Wolman, also from NASA. And the three of us are at Hawthorne, and we're commentating through some of the incredible views that we're seeing from space right now. You know, a couple of minutes ago, we saw the SPHEREx spacecraft deploy from the second stage, and then a few minutes after that, we saw in 2 batches all 4 Punch spacecraft also deploy. So it's been really great being able to commentate through this and be able to share this with the public. But for now, let's send it back to Raquel and Farah.
Well, thank you for that update, Megan, Mick, and Jesse. So tonight, NASA's Launch Services Program has successfully launched SPHEREx and Punch. Joining us now is tonight's Assistant Launch Manager for NASA's Launch Services Program, Tim Dunn. Tim, another successful launch for NASA's Launch Services Program. How are you feeling in this moment?
Well, Raquel, I'm feeling incredibly excited. Hopefully I'm representative of the team. I just left a building on North Vandenberg, the SpaceX Launch and Landing Center, where there was incredible positive energy after launch. And then I was on the phone with our NASA launch manager, Denton Gibson, on the ride down here. And we got spacecraft SEP of SPHEREx. And I could hear in the background the cheering and the yelling in that room. And I know it was replicated in the rooms here at Building 836 with all of the team present here at Vandenberg.
You can probably hear Farah at that point.
Yeah, probably from the parking lot out there.
Wonderful.
So tell us what's next for LSP.
Oh, gosh, what's next? Well, let's see. We have some different missions this year. So this was what we call a full-up NASA Launch Services mission, and we've got 2 more of those this year, Farah. We've got one called IMAP in September, back from the Cape.
Also with some ride shares, right?
And it has ride shares on it also, yes, indeed. SWIFO and Carruthers will be the ride shares there. And then we come back to Vandenberg at the end of the year in November, and we launch another JPL mission, the Sentinel 6B mission. So we always love coming out here to Vandenberg and looking really forward to that. But also, scattered throughout the year, we have what we call our Vader missions. There are Class D, more risk-tolerant missions, maybe smaller spacecraft. But the first one up will be this summer, where we're launching a spacecraft to Mars, the Escapade mission. So, and that would go on the New Glenn rocket, which is Blue Origin's new rocket that successfully launched in January of this year. So looking forward to that one. And then we have a Tracers mission just ahead of that in the May timeframe, we believe, from Vandenberg here. And then we finish up in the September, October timeframe with 2 missions that look like they're going to ride together. The Pandora mission riding with the Thesis 2 mission. So we've got across the board, big spacecraft, small spacecraft, both coasts, just a lot of excitement in Launch Services Program in 2025.
Busy year for you.
Yes, very busy, but that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Tim, thank you so much for that. We actually have an acquisition of signal update from the team at Hawthorne.
Whoa, what's the update? Did they get the signal?
I can do it. Well, we can. Here we go.
I think it's good news.
All right, everyone, we are now 59 minutes, 51 seconds from liftoff. Again, we watched the Falcon 9 rocket lift off with 2 NASA missions. We had SPHEREx as well as Punch. We did watch all 5 spacecraft deploy from the Falcon 9 second stage. We had some great views of those, again, live. And then we are currently waiting on AOS for all 5 spacecraft. Mick, talk to us about the opportunities. You know, the spacecraft team for SPHEREx was hoping that we would be able to confirm a signal within the first couple of minutes after separation. But we did also know that's a short 3-minute pass. It's this next one that's a longer opportunity where they hope to really acquire that signal.
Yeah, their next opportunity will be over the Fairbanks ground station, and they'll be looking for checking out SPHEREx and making sure things are healthy and looking good for SPHEREx as they get into getting ready for conditioning for science mission and all. But again, we did separate them very well into a proper orbit. Things looking good. Punch separated, and we're about 20 minutes, I think, from getting signal for the Punch team, and they'll start off receiving signal for 1, and then in about an hour get signal for all 4 to verify that Punch is good. And so the teams will be on console monitoring that and looking for that. And I'm sure that we will hear about that through our social media stuff, through NASA and that. But I will say tonight's launch was amazing. Seeing the separation of all 5 spacecraft was great. And, this has been just an absolute great day to see this launch with everything that we've gone through for this mission.
Yeah, so again, waiting for those opportunities to acquire signal from all of the spacecraft. Again, we are looking at T plus around 80 minutes for the SPHEREx spacecraft, and then also for the Punch spacecraft. The first opportunity for at least one of them is about 74 minutes after separation. So again, a really great time. We were so happy to be here with you, Jesse.
Yeah, it was awesome. I will say it was awesome being with both of you, but thank you, Jesse, for having us.
I work with them all the time. So.
No, it's been so great having you both here. I've had so much fun on this mission. And we'd also like to thank NASA for their trust in us and for being a frequent flyer with SpaceX. We'd also like to thank the range and the FAA for their ongoing support of our missions. And we've got another busy year ahead of us, so check us out at SpaceX.com for up-to-date missions and schedules, and follow us at SpaceX on X for updates.
All right. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in, and we'll toss it back to the hostess now.
Great. Thank you so much. And we also have updates that will be coming in on go.nasa.gov and blogs.nasa.gov/punch, blogs.nasa.gov/SPHEREx. And before we wrap things up, let's take one more look at tonight's Falcon 9 launch of SPHEREx and Punch.
Sure, sounds good.
T-minus 15
this was before.
seconds. 10, 9.
Again, this is a replay.
7,
They're replaying the launch.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9. Go SpaceX, go SPHEREx, go Punch.
SPHEREx and Punch on their way to map out our universe like never before and revolutionize space weather forecasting.
They're just showing this replay as part of their broadcast.
We are T plus 30 seconds into flight, and we are currently firing all 9 of those M1D engines. And after about 50 seconds, we'll begin throttling down those engines, which slows
I don't know how much of this replay they're going to do.
In order to prepare,
telemetry nominal.
In order to prepare for passing through max Q, and that is maximum aerodynamic pressure. That's the largest structural load that the vehicle will see during ascent.
We saw all this. So I'll leave the video on. Oh, is that they're ending it? Okay. So I gotta say it's a little odd. I don't know why they didn't stay on the air. Yeah, their broadcast is over. As from what I can tell. I'll leave it up here, but I think they're done. Yeah, this is just they're just showing this on the screen now. I don't know why they didn't stay on the air like 20 more minutes. Because they hadn't heard yet from, they hadn't heard from any of the 4 satellites or the telescope. But they didn't have a chance to hear from the 4 satellites yet. Yeah, they just finished. So I'm confused. Well, so they didn't hear. They clearly wanted to hear from the telescope shortly after it separated from the rocket. And they didn't. And they were not happy with that. But they have another chance coming up. Ooh, by the way, I know, I'll fix the headline here, sorry. I know why that headline is like that. Give me a second, I'll fix it. But they said well, the next chance starts in 15 or 20 minutes. I just figure, to me, you just have them stay on the air. They can just take questions, even if they were just playing they could just play their old videos for 15 minutes and then say, okay, here's the update. We got a signal or we didn't. So it was a little odd to me that they went off the air when they had powered through and done the hour of coverage. They're like, we'll update you on the social media. I mean, I really appreciate them doing the coverage. I just seems like, why not just stay on? Let me just, bottom of Twitch says, such a big thing. Yeah, it's a big deal. By the way, I'm just fixing the headline right now. I'll take some comments from you guys. Give me a moment here. I know everything looks messed up. So just to go over what's happened is, yes, they got everything launched and they got everything up there, but the first chance they had to hear from the telescope, they didn't hear from it. And the next one, I guess, is coming up. I don't know how long the window is. They said the first window was like a few minutes. I don't know how long the second window to hear is. So at a certain point, they're just going to post on social media. Let's hope that they post, hey, we heard from the telescope. We're communicating with it. Everything's good. Let's hope that. But it was I will say this. It was also kind of fun to me when it looked to me like one of the last people they interviewed was the launch guy. And he was just like, this is awesome. He was smiling. He seemed pretty relieved. My take on it is that he's just responsible for the launch. So like his job is done. I might be wrong about this. That's how I kind of saw it. He was like, because he was just happy. Because I have to imagine that the people are not like as the people who are were involved with the mission after the launch. I have to imagine that they're probably kind of nervous now. So again, I don't want to put words in his mouth. It's just, to me, if you looked at him, he seemed like pretty relieved, which I would, if you're responsible for the launch, I'm sure you are relieved. And he did say we got separation, but it was kind of, I was just thinking to myself, well, I'm sure there's people there who are just really nervous right now. So anyways. John said they said the first chance to acquire signal was short, so missing it wasn't a big deal. They did say it was short. I don't recall that they said it wasn't a big deal. What I would love to know, and I don't know, and I don't recall them saying, is how big a deal is it that they missed that first window? What percentage of the time do you miss the first window, but you just get the contact in the second window? It didn't seem like nothing, put it that way, because they were talking about it before. They weren't saying like, oh, it's no big deal if we miss it before it happened. And then they even said after, well, we would have liked to have heard from it. But maybe, clearly they have another window coming up. So hopefully they hear from it and everything's good. But, it didn't seem like it was nothing. But, and again, I just don't have the knowledge to know how much, how does that change the outlook? How does that change the chances? Yeah, the Sugaro says she said it like 20 times too. She was clearly like waiting. Yeah, I mean, it's something they talked about a bunch beforehand. Martha said they acted a little concerned, Martha Crawford. I mean, they just did, So Rizzo thinks they seem disappointed but not worried. Uncoachable says Fairbanks' big moment coming up. It's too bad. I would have liked them to do. I mean, I'm sure they have their reasons. What I would have liked is for them to say to somebody, okay, we didn't hear about, how big a deal is it that we didn't hear? They didn't really get into it. When will we know, says Girl Rush Fan? I don't know, because they said that, I think it's probably about 10 minutes now, the next window opens up, but I don't know how long that window is. And I don't know how soon they're going to communicate that with the public. Anyways, so let's hope that they get the signal. No, I'm not going to cover the SpaceX crew launching to the space station, which is supposed to happen tomorrow, or the SpaceX launch to the space station. The SpaceX launch. And it's not technically it's who's overseeing that launch. It's not a SpaceX crew. It's a SpaceX vehicle, SpaceX launch. But is it a NASA crew? I don't even know who. Is it some sort of international? Is it who does the crew? Who are the crew members? Are they NASA crew members for the launch tomorrow? Anyways, I will cover when Suni and Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams come home, which is supposed to be roughly a week after. ISS crew. Yeah, I just don't know. I believe there's different organizations that put people on the ISS. Tom Mix says the end of the NASA stream seemed rather abrupt. The celebration seemed a bit muted too. Yeah, I mean, we just don't know. They don't know that they have a signal yet. Also, if you look on the no, I mean, it's something that they talked about during the stream, is getting that signal. Joe Martin says it's a big deal because this spacecraft stuff is freaking expensive. Hold on a second here. Yeah, so this is real quick, a Crew 10 launch. What is this? I was just looking here. Yeah, station readies for upcoming SpaceX crew swap. Well, it says SpaceX. The SpaceX Falcon rocket that will launch the Crew 10 mission aboard the Dragon crew spacecraft, International Space Station, stands at the launch pad. Crew 10 is counting down to its liftoff, targeted for 7:48 p.m. Wednesday. Again, I don't think I'm going to cover that launch because it's just a launch. I don't know if I'm not covering anything else. Maybe I will. The bigger thing, I don't cover every launch. The bigger thing to me is to cover when the people come back. I don't know. Maybe we will. I don't know. I'll have to see what else is going on. I'm not committing to it. But they launch and then they go up it'll take about a week until Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams come back with 2 other astronauts. Yes, it says it's SpaceX Crew 10 is the name of that crew. SpaceX Crew 10 is the 10th operational NASA commercial crew program flight. So it's 2 NASA astronauts, a Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut, and a Russian Federation Space State Corporation for Space Activities astronaut. Those are the 4 going to the International Space Station on Crew 10. Okay. Anyways, well, I don't know how long it's going to take for us to hear anything about. I'm not going to stay on indefinitely because I have no idea how long it'll take for us to hear about the telescope getting a signal. NASA just posted, by the way, all mission instruments have successfully deployed, and SPHERex and Punch mission teams will wait to confirm a signal. Oh, I wanted to replay this video also. We should replay the video of, let's replay the video of the telescope separating from the spacecraft. It was pretty from the rocket. It was pretty cool. Where was that at? That was about 40 minutes in. All right, here it is. I'm going to replay for you right now. Here is the replay of The replay of when the telescope separated from the rocket. It was really cool. Ready? All right, this is a replay. Here it is right here. Oops, I got to put myself on the other side here. Here it is. Here's a replay of when this happened. It was really neat.
At least 2 years, but the team says if all goes well, it could operate much longer.
Get ready.
Expecting deployment here in just a few
SPHEREx
seconds.
separation confirmed.
There it goes.
And there we are, the
There's-
call out, and now you can see that there on your screen. SPHEREx is drifting away from Falcon 9's second stage, confirming deployment.
Woohoo! It took everything in me not to talk over you and go, yay!
So exciting.
Are you kidding? Farah is at the hostess right now, jumping up and down.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, great live views. It's always nice to see. And again, this is a great opportunity for the spacecraft team to see it happen in real time. So now the spacecraft has a 3-minute pass over a ground station in Antarctica. You might have heard it mentioned a couple of times in the broadcast. Troll is what that ground station is called. And the team hopes to confirm an initial signal with the spacecraft.
Yeah, that initial signal will primarily be gathering engineering data for its health and status at this time.
See, they just
and once
mentioned
they
it.
confirm,
See,
be
that's
gathering
what-
engineering.
Hold on.
Troll pass over a ground station in Antarctica. You might have heard it mentioned a couple of times in the broadcast. Troll is what that ground station is called. And the team hopes to confirm an initial signal with the spacecraft.
Yeah, that initial signal.
See, that's when they were talking about it. They said the team hopes to confirm an initial signal with the spacecraft, which they ended up not doing. They ended up they didn't get a signal. So they're waiting to see if they get it in the minutes to come.
Will primarily be gathering engineering data for its health and status at this time. And once they confirm that and that it's ready to be operational, SPHEREx will then transition into its science phase, starting with calibration and test observations over the next few days or weeks that Farah had mentioned, and another pass over another ground station in Norway at about T plus 80 minutes. So about 40 minutes from now, they will start working on that and confirm that everything looks great on SPHEREx. So we're just waiting to hear that initial engineering data check from on AOS for SPHEREx, where they start receiving that engineering data just to make sure everything is good there at Troll.
Yeah, I mean, you heard them talking about that there. They weren't saying like, well, you know, there's the first 3 minutes. We may hear something, we may not. It's no big deal because it's really hard to get data on that first pass. That's not what they were saying. Now, there's a chance that they clearly can hear it from on the second pass without hearing it on the first pass because they said that. So hopefully everything's fine. But just to be clear, when they talked about it, they were not talking about that first pass as, great if we hear, no biggie if we don't. Who knows if we'll hear on the first pass? So, that was not how it was being discussed on the stream. So, hopefully everything's fine. I just want to be clear that how it was discussed, how that first pass was discussed. Anyways, so let's hope it's fine. And it was really cool seeing it go away like that. Anyways, there it goes. Okay. All right. So, I don't have an update from them, by the way. 9 minutes ago, they said they're waiting to confirm the signal from both SPHEREx and Punch. All right. Well, guys, I'm going to read a few more comments here. By the way, the SPHEREx budget for this mission was approximately $500 million, $488 million. I didn't even see this page before, but the total life cycle cost to develop, launch, and operate it under NASA's current budget planning is approximately $488 million. That actually includes operating it for a couple of years too, so they haven't spent that much yet. Anyways. All right, so look, I will post when I you can follow NASA on social media. I'll post when they say they heard from it. I'll post that on my X account. I'll start wrapping up this stream right now. I really appreciate you guys being here for the stream. This was really interesting to watch. I had fun watching it with you. And let's hope that they get the signal from SPHEREx. Let's hope it's not that that wouldn't be good if they don't get any signal from it. So let's hope they get a signal from it. But I really appreciate you being here, and we will cover more of all kinds of news. By the way, thanks to Table 10s for the support on Twitch, and Fifth Survivor, and John, our new member on YouTube, and Eliza Jane and Alan for your support, and 495-58201. Yeah, Air Force USA, the problem is I have no idea when they're going to announce anything. If I knew it was going to be in 5 minutes, I'd stay on the air. It could be hours before they say anything. Maybe, I think Spaceflight Now said there are 3 passes possible. So maybe if they don't hear anything the second pass, they won't even post anything and they'll wait until the third pass, and I don't even know when that is. So I think, because given that I have just no idea when they're going to post anything, I think it's time. I'm sorry, I just don't know how long it would take. They're not even on the air. It's 80 minutes, as Ben and Glitch said, they said it was 80 minutes from liftoff for the pass to start over Norway. But I don't know how long that takes, and I don't know how long it'll take them to post something about it. Oh, did they say they got the signal? Hold on. Some viewers are saying they got the signal. Hang on. Signal acquired. Hey, guys, look. Signal acquired. Good news. Mission controllers on Earth have received full acquisition of signal from the observatory, indicating the spacecraft is functioning nominally and it is power positive. Well, that is great news. Thanks viewers for mentioning that. There you go. Breaking news, signal acquired. Well, we got our closure. In the weeks ahead, they will prepare the observatory. The team will prepare the observatory for survey operations, conducting calibration, cooling the telescope to its designed operating temperature, and characterizing its optical performance in space. Awesome. Well, I'm glad we got to, I'm glad, there you go. They put it right up there. They got it right up. Punch, I don't know. I can see if they got anything from Punch. On the Punch blog, it says, no, it just says SPHEREx. Signal acquired SPHEREx. Yeah, it's the same blog, so they haven't put anything up about Punch yet. Awesome. Well, great. There you go. BXM Studio says, I saw the launch live from Santa Monica. Very nice, very neat. Awesome. Ken Lance says, excellent news. Bronco Knight says, it has phoned home. Matthew Kohai 3 says, acquired. Sentient Cannabis says, heck yeah. Turnaround says, let's go. Thanks for letting me know. We had some people in the chat who saw it. Mr. Norm was watching for Norway. Well, on that note, I feel like we have closure. That's great. Awesome. If you missed the launch, you can go back and watch it. But that was fun. So CAC says, very cool, bravo. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. Subscribe and follow the channel, Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news without an agenda, Agenda Free TV. And thanks for letting me read your comments on the air, by the way. And thanks for your updates. Thanks for people who posted that they had posted on the blog. And hang on a moment here. I'm just checking something real quick. I will post updates on the news on my X account. One moment here. I will post news updates on my X account when I'm not on the air. You can follow me there at Lookner on X. There it is, at Lookner on X. Follow me there for breaking news. Hey, let's shout out our, and turn on notifications for the channel. I never know when big news is going to happen, so I don't know. Can't tell you in advance whenever we're going live. But turn on the notifications so you get notified. We have a notification system. It works great. We set it up ourselves. It's free. The mods will post the link to the notifications in the chat. You can also find the notifications link in the description of this video on YouTube and Facebook, but make sure you sign up for those. Oh, thanks to John1948. That's so nice of you, John1948. Thank you. Thanks to shouting out the mods, too. Hey, thanks so much to our mods. We have been doing a lot of coverage today, and our mods have been here. They are the reason that we can have chat rooms. They are awesome. Huge part of the channel. Thank you so much, moderators. Ruth Krafasi over there on YouTube. Thank you so much, Ruth, for being there. And all of our other YouTube mods. Thank you. Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X. Over there on Twitch, we have A Moment of Lovely Good Luck Duck, Matthew Kohai 3, Surly Dev, and all of our other Twitch mods. Thank you. On Facebook, Paul Anderson, Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley, all of our other Facebook mods. Thank you so much for modding, everybody. Thank you. Thanks to everybody who donated, too. It's so nice of you guys. That is what keeps this channel on the air, is your support. So very nice of you. I very much appreciate it. I think I thanked everybody, hopefully. Hopefully. Oh, Lily's Thoughts. Thanks for the bits, Lily's Thoughts. Over on Twitch, thanks. If you ever want to donate, you can go to agendafree.tv. Agendafree.tv. Thanks. Oh, we have a chat. You can chat with other viewers when we're not on the air. A lot of our viewers like doing it. It's on the Discord. It's free. The Discord chat, check it out. It's the same link as the notifications link. So check out the Discord chat. Thanks so much to our Discord moderators, too, for all you do. Thanks, Discord mods. Follow, if you're on X, follow Agenda Free TV on X. I post there before we go live. I post updates about the channel there at Agenda Free TV on X. And for those who watch on YouTube, make sure you turn on the YouTube notifications. Another great way to know when we're live. We're going live. I don't know how does YouTube send out a notification when we're going live? They send out a notification right when we go live, most of the time. But anyways, to turn those notifications on, you have to be a subscriber. So once you subscribe, you click the bell. The subscription thing, when I say it's not membership, you don't have to pay to subscribe on YouTube, but you do have to subscribe to the channel to get the notifications. And then you click the bell and you choose all notifications. All right. Yes, people like Dr. McRib and MI are saying they send you a link. They send you a notification on YouTube as you go live. Exactly. Let's see here. Hey, thanks to our Twitch subscribers. You guys are awesome. Thanks for your support. Gina Pina, A Moment of Lovely, Wall Street Shaggy, Jazzy Renee, Night Owl. Thanks, subscribers. Matthew Kohai 3, Turnaround, Moment of Lovely. All of our other Twitch subscribers, thanks so much. Our Facebook subscribers too. Thank you. Rita Evans Lange, Eve Richards, Lou Green, Margaret Riley, Kay Lowry Body. Some of our viewers were saying it like looks fake. It's really cool when you see those, you know, like the telescope moving away from the space from the rocket, or the satellites moving away from the rocket. People say it looks fake. It kind of looks like a movie. You can't believe that you're really seeing it from a camera. The Earth looked amazing tonight too. Had this kind of muted blue, but in real detail. It was really neat views. Crazy though. Dr. McRib says it looks unusual. Oh, I should put this out again. They did get the signal from SPHEREx. Thanks to all of our Facebook subscribers again, and also thanks to Jarrett Najalki over there for watching. He says, "Cool little bit of history." Thanks also to our YouTube members: Wickedest Witch, Jennifer Rochelle, Berry, Naomi Nocturnal, Dr. McRib, NY Committee, Sabin Nation, Ane, Babs, UV Lightning, Thomas Darwin, Chris N, Ann Jeanette's, where is it here? Austin Batman, Danny G, Ann Jeanette's Vignettes, CAC 813, thanks for being a member, Dr. McRib, Susie Irish, Lolly Lollipop, Northwoods Hiker, Barry, R.A. Clark, Colleen Typon, B. Earhart, Wickedest Witch, Terry Rose, Chris N., Texas Annie, Bay Muse, B. Earhart, Tommy Zinneman, Joel, is it Joel PM? Thanks to all, Terry Rose, all of our other members, thank you so much. Mary B., thanks for watching. Princess Kidda, Nakin Sakkachin, Nathan, Daniel Israel, thanks for watching. All right, it is getting to be that time. Terry Rose, thanks. Debbie Smurthwaite, thanks for watching. It's getting to be that time. Been a busy day. Pre-breakfast bananas, Jack's Animals, thanks for watching. AgriJag TV, our subscriber, thank you. All right, guys. Our viewer late night last night says, I always believe we were going to hear from it. Thanks, Night Owl, who says, all that worrying for nothing. Thanks for subscribing, Night Owl. All right, that is it. We have been covering the NASA SPHEREx launch, its newest space telescope. I had fun watching with you guys, and we are wrapping it up now. So thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.